Okay, Molly's been fighting to get intro music onto the streams for a while. We finally did it, and I have to say, it pumps me up too, even if it's only 15 seconds.
Doesn't it make a huge difference?
I think it's pretty good. I like it.
It gets me hyped. I'm loving it.
Well, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Clone Zone. Today, we're going to be talking about episode 3 of season 2, The Solitary Clone, which is an episode I really, really liked. And Molly, what did you think of it? Is that exploding?
It blew my mind. Yeah, no, it was so good. The first two were like a good, comforting, like Bad Batch is back, and then this one was just like wham in your face. We're dealing with some dark stuff here.
Yeah, we were just rewatching it again before we hopped on here, and I pointed out it kind of feels like when Crosshair is in an episode, you know it's going to be good. It's kind of like the Smoking Man in X-Files. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to get to some real meat here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are not alone today to discuss this episode. We have a great guest lined up, someone I'm really excited to have on, TikTok sensation. Welcome, MaceAhWindu, to the stream.
A TikTok sensation. I don't know. Thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. Hello.
Am I wrong?
No, not really. The algorithm needs to just get its crap together. But yeah, you're not incorrect. I'll take the compliment. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think you were one of my first follows on TikTok when Molly was on TikTok for a little while, and she kept on trying to get me into it. And I was like, I don't know, might be too old for this. And I finally got on, and once you swipe a little bit and the algorithm figures out like, oh, you like Star Wars? Here's a bunch of Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. It took a while for me to like find Star Wars TikTok. I was kind of having to like go look for it, but then once I found it, it was all there.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, I mean, it found me pretty quickly. I guess there's something to do with that magic algorithm that they have. You like one Star Wars video, and then you're just sucked in for the rest of time. Yeah, so it's awesome. But yeah, thank you. I did not know I was one of your first follows. That was it was I didn't even know you were on until like I saw you on the For You page, and I was like, oh wait, Star Wars Explained is on here. Cool, awesome. And then I was like, wait, he follows me. Oh my god, and it scared the hell out of me. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. I fanboyed a little too hard, but yeah, appreciate it.
Shouldn't be scary at all. If that was scary, this has to be mortifying. But
I was dreading it all day. Yeah, I said, oh god, I don't know what to say. Like Alex and Molly, I don't know. No, it's fine.
We're so glad to have you. Well, real quick before we get into the Bad Batch, I did want to just ask my usual. This is my icebreaker question because we got to meet at Star Wars Celebration. We were at the Andor premiere. We got to chat here and there, but I just wanted to ask you, who's your favorite like side or background Star Wars character? Don't give me any of the main characters of any of the trilogies. Like okay. I want someone you think you might be the biggest fan of.
Okay, background side character. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big fan of what was his name? He was in one of the Clone Wars episodes. George Lucas cameoed him. Chairman, the Pantoran chairman. Yeah, I've always liked
Papa Noida.
Papa Noida. That was his name. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm always sad that they didn't get George Lucas to like actually voice him in that episode he was in. It would have been funny. But
that would have been hilarious.
Yeah, it would have been amazing. Everybody would have immediately told it was George. I was like, oh yeah, that's George Lucas. It's funny. But yeah, no, big
my daughter.
Yeah. We need to go find them. Yeah, and so, but Coleman Trevor and oh god, yeah, Coleman Trevor is another one. Not really. No.
What draws you to Papa Noida?
I've always liked the Pantorans, and when I was a kid, I had a crush on Senator Chuchi. So like. I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm already been kind of interested in this species. So, I've always, and so when Chairman Papa Noida, because I didn't notice him in Revenge of the Sith, and I didn't know that George Lucas had that like small cameo in there. So when I saw the Pantorans in the Clone Wars, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then when he had an episode where like the daughter was kidnapped, I was like, oh yeah, he looks really cool. I like him. And then like, doesn't he like punch somebody in the face too in the episode too? It's actually pretty awesome.
Oh yeah,
he's a badass.
They make him a badass. He's throwing tables over and like shooting with two pistols at the same time.
It's awesome. I was so I don't like calling any Star Wars thing like filler, but like it felt like one of those episodes where you go into, you're like, it doesn't look like anything like crazy is happening. And then like you get into, you're like, this is actually pretty fire. Like actually, this is funny, hilarious. But yeah,
He was like, make me look cool.
yeah,
Like, you know, just make me
Yeah.
look cool.
yeah.
I
They're
wonder
like,
if, yeah,
yeah, what do you mean by that, George? Just like I don't know, yeah, just
he was
Okay.
originally just supposed to be like at the start of the episode, and he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, what if he had guns? What if he went to Tatooine and shot at Greedo?
Dave, get on that. Yeah, no, that would be probably, yeah,
What if he was actually just a cool cowboy?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, literally.
I wonder if they had to rein him in at all. Like he kept suggesting that, like, no, George, you're enough. That's enough.
How do you rein in George Lucas? You know, like you work
Maybe
for him. Like, it's like,
maybe he has
scary.
a lightsaber too. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe
Laser
he's
sword.
God. Maybe he's God in Star Wars. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, let's shift over to the Bad Batch a little bit. What is your relationship like with this series, and maybe with Star Wars animation as a whole? Do you watch all of them, or yeah?
All of it, yeah, all of it, yeah. I try and read as much as I can. I've kind of slacked off the novels too, but like I definitely, anything that's on Disney Plus, anything that's coming out, like even Star Wars Resistance, I managed to kind of trudge through it, even though it wasn't really like my cup of tea. I was like, I feel like I just need to get through this one. But no, Bad Batch was definitely one of the ones that I was really, really excited for when it first got announced. I remember, I think it was right at, how soon after the Clone Wars ended did it get announced?
It was pretty fast, and there were
Pretty
rumors
fast.
surrounding it for a while.
Yeah, I felt that void in my soul after the Siege of Mandalore arc ended, and I was just like, God, man, I'm gonna miss Star Wars animation. They were like, Bad Batch, and I was like, yes, yes. So from the beginning, I was excited about it. I didn't really know what to expect, but it was very intriguing because one of my favorite eras that's almost never explored in canon, and really not a lot in Legends either, it was like the immediate aftermath of Revenge of the Sith, and that's always been like a pet peeve of mine. I was like, there is so much good content to talk about there. And when they announced that it was set shortly at, like literally before and right after Order 66 goes down, I was like, oh, perfect, this is exactly what I've been wanting. So yeah, season 1 was awesome, and season 2, after the 3rd episode, it's like really shaping up to be like everything that I wanted it to be. So yeah,
I agree. I think this 3rd episode of season 2 is one of my favorites of the entire series. I meant to go back and rewatch season 1 before diving into season 2 again, and I didn't. So it's not super fresh in my mind, but man, this one really stood out to me. Molly, what did you think beyond your head exploding?
I just really dug all the clone stuff in this one. You know, like they've gone into it a little bit before, but to really dive into what these clones are going through after Order 66, they're dealing with the TK troopers coming in, and you know, we finally get to see what's going on in Cody's mind in this episode, which was on everyone's minds. Like what's he going through? How's he dealing with all this stuff? And like I loved all the Crosshair stuff, but like 2 of them together in this episode were like my favorite part about them. And like just the way that they kind of like bounced off of each other. You could see Crosshair kind of like almost missing the camaraderie of the other members of the Bad Batch by getting to work with Cody. And it was just so good. And then by the end of the episode, you see Cody like, we got to live with this, man. And then he's just gone. So I'm really curious to see how this ends for Cody specifically. Crosshair's fine too, though.
I think it's really interesting to pair them up, and they did establish in season 7 of the Clone Wars that Cody was the one that knew the batch beforehand. So he was kind of like, oh yeah, Crosshair's around, like my buddy, my friend, and we'll work together. But also, I think it's interesting that Crosshair is starting to kind of take Cody's place as like the clone that stays with the Empire. Because in Legends, that was Cody.
Yeah.
And I know ever since Rex popped back up in Star Wars Rebels, people were like, oh man, maybe Cody will pop up and they'll like have a showdown or something. And it's the clone that stayed with the Empire and the clone that left, and it's brother against brother.
Right.
but now that's basically become Crosshair's story, where literally like his Bad
Mhm.
Batch brothers left and he's the one that stayed behind. So Cody gets to be his own clone again. And I'm really psyched about that.
Yeah, and it makes so much more sense this way, I feel like, because Cody was basically like a protege to Obi-Wan. Like he worked with Obi-Wan all the time. And so to see him even after all that, to see him be the Crosshair would have been just devastating. So
Yeah.
I like that we get to see him kind of start to question everything happening around him and like, are we doing the right thing? Are we the baddies? Like
Yeah.
it just makes sense.
Yeah. I remember when one of my what was I gonna say? Did I completely brain fart? Right.
It's okay. It happens all the time.
I loved the episode now. Oh, I remember now. It always felt like with Cody and like all the other clone commanders and captains that were underneath each Jedi, it feels like each of them kind of like impressed, like had their Jedi that they served under kind of like impressed onto, they worked well with each other's personalities. Like I could see it working with Cody and Anakin. Like I could see them getting through it. It would be a lot like Obi-Wan dealing with like a hard-headed Anakin, and Cody would be like, sir, with respect, what are you doing, or something like that. But like with Obi-Wan and Cody, it's like they're both like always on the same page with everything. Like I my favorite moment with those two in the show in the Clone Wars is when Obi-Wan, one of the millions of times he faces off with General Grievous, and he like blows up the Venator with Grievous still on it or whatever. Like Cody and him are like fighting, like Obi-Wan's throwing like a canister at Grievous and Cody's shooting the canister and blowing up Grievous. It was just like they always seem to be on the same page. So it's cool. Like, so when it came to like, oh, did Cody follow Order 66 or did he, was he always kind of like more loyal to the Republic, and would he have ever questioned killing Obi-Wan, like the big what if for like 18 years now? I've always kind of been like, I don't know, man. Like now that the chip thing is like a canon thing, I don't think there's any way in hell that Cody would have, like, it might have given him some pause to get that order, but I think he would have confronted Obi-Wan over it, and then after he realized that stuff didn't add up, I think they would have like rolled out together or something like that. Because Cody's super loyal to Obi-Wan.
Well, it's interesting that like you point out, and I think this is absolutely the point of the Clone Wars series, or one of them, because in the movie, Rex says experience outranks everything. So we get to see how all the clones' different experiences with their different Jedi make them different people. And I mean, Obi-Wan, when you compare him to Anakin, Obi-Wan is more the rule follower. Like he might find some way around the rules occasionally, but like if the Jedi Council gives an order, he's gonna stick to that first. So to me, Cody getting Order 66, he's like, well, there's an order, execute that order.
He's the company man. Yeah.
Right.
He's definitely the company man. I wholeheartedly agree. That's a very good point.
But I mean, he didn't know. Like if he had knowledge of the chip like Rex had, then I think maybe he could have fought it a little bit. But I love seeing him now being like trying to reconcile that and being like, was that the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And that little moment where he's walking off from Crosshair, they're going on the mission. He's like, well, good soldiers follow orders. Let's go.
Yeah.
And
I've just been saying it so much. He's like, did I just say that again out loud?
And I wanted to ask you guys, because other people have been rumbling about it too. Do you think Cody was like baiting Crosshair? He was trying to like fish him out and see, like, what is he like? He's trying to see like if Crosshair is like kind of on the same page, because like he's doing all this stuff like, yeah, man, like I heard the other day that some regs, and I heard Clone Force 99, not you though, right, dude? Like not you though. Like I heard they were kind of like, the theory now is that like he's kind of been thinking about not just questioning but straight up leaving for a while now, and this was kind of just like the final straw for him, and he's like, you know what, now would be a pretty good time for me to bounce. What do you guys think about that?
I love that theory. I think that's pretty spot on, actually.
Yeah.
I guess I had the impression that he was still I don't want to say he was still fully on board with the Empire, because when Crosshair says, oh, they're all traitors just like the Jedi, you know, Cody kind of takes that pause. I think he's been wrestling with it for a while.
Okay.
I don't know if he had decided like I'm gonna leave soon.
Fair.
To me, I think that this mission, I
Mhm.
love how much this mission was. It's clones versus droids until it's not. So
Yeah.
it's very
Mhm.
familiar territory for Cody
Mhm.
until he gets to like a human face.
Yeah.
That it like the whole conflict changes.
Yeah.
And there's that moment where they're going through the city, and he sees the kid and the mother, and he's like, "It's okay. We're here to help." And it's like, "No, you're not. You're
Yeah, and you're not though.
invading."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think Cody realized that until he went on this mission, and he's like,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and we have our drawings here. My drawing for my favorite part of the episode was the ending montage, because
Ooh.
I loved it so much, and I just jammed 3 shots into one. But
10
the
out of
TK
10.
troopers, like Cody watching all of the TK troopers come in while he and the other clone troopers are heading out, like I think he just knows this is not my fight anymore. This is
Mhm.
not what I signed up for, and I gotta bounce.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, you already pointed out my drawing that I did, so I'll go ahead and show it. My favorite part was that line, "It's okay, we're here to help."
Oh, so sad.
And then the little kid and the mom are like, "Yeah, I don't think so." Um, and that line has just, like, stuck in my head since I heard it, because there's so many people that say stuff like that, like, politicians,
Mm.
police, like, we could get real world with it, like, "It's okay, we're here to help," and they're like, "Are you though?"
Mhm.
Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't look like it, so that short little scene meant so much.
I let my favorite scene, and it's so hard to pick because like Cody being back like threw me through a loop. Fun fact, when I saw the episode list, I was like, if I had to pick which episode he was going to show up in, it was going to be the one in like February or something like that. Crosshair was going to be like, that was primarily going to be like a Crosshair episode in episode 3, and then they were going to go back to the batch for a few more episodes, and then around February they were going to focus on Crosshair again, and that's when we run into Cody. So when they were like, yeah, go meet your new commander, I was like, no, wait,
Yeah.
wait, is this the episode? And he showed up and I was like, oh my god. No, but I remember my favorite part is when the what's the governor's name?
Oh,
Tawny.
Groton. Oh, Tawny
Not
Ames.
Groton. Like what was his Groton? Is it like, was his name a pun off of Rotten or something like that? Because
Probably.
his
Rotten.
personality fit, it matched. But yeah, but the separatist governor that held him hostage, she was talking to Cody and like he got her to uh I first I was kind of like, oh, like he convinced her that what she was doing was wrong. And I was like, no, I don't think he convinced her that what she was doing was wrong. I just felt that she kind of like she chose to like trust him and what
Mhm.
he was saying. So when she kind of like put the gun down and let him go, and immediately the governor's like, yeah, shoot her, she's kind of like, yeah, I figured. Yeah, like I figured. And it
Mhm.
was really sad because I was like, damn, like she probably already knew, like, oh, if I let me just prove to him, because this dude has no idea, and he's in the system. He has no idea that like it's about to wheel around and hit me in the face anyway. And then sure enough, Crosshair just like pops her right there. That was really striking scene. And I think that's the moment that Cody was probably like, because like, up to that point, it's like every other Clone Wars mission. He's like, take out the
Mhm.
droids and stop the
Mhm.
hostage from dying and stuff. And if you can get the good ending plus and get the plus good ending and convince the person to drop the hostage and completely surrender without any more loss of life. Haha, everybody goes away. And then like the hostage orders you to execute the prisoner. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so it probably was a big wake up call for him where he's like, oh, geez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
that's
literally just going to say this, and no, and Tin Man, thank you for the super chat, sent it in, but I was like, yep,
Oh yeah, true.
Cody
yep.
worked under Obi-Wan Kenobi, the negotiator, and like,
Yep.
if Kenobi could see him, and I mean, I guess he would be deep into his depression right now because he's still 10 years away from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but I
Mhm.
hope he'd be proud of Cody
Sure,
in that moment.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, that line from her where she says like peace was never an option.
Mhm.
And then after she realizes what's happening. She says so much for peace. Like she
Mhm.
knew,
Yeah.
I think, in the back of her mind that
Mhm.
something was going to go down. That little turd of a Imperial, I hated him so much.
Yeah, he was major jerk. I'll be PG for it.
Yeah, I think Cody. I mean, he used to work under the Republic, and he used to work with people like Obi-Wan, like Padme, who would
Mhm,
always try to find a diplomatic solution first, and would stick to their word. And
mhm,
so he's all of the last like 5 or so minutes of this episode, seeing the Imperial be like, "I didn't promise anything, shoot
mhm.
her," and then just watching everything changing.
Yeah,
I really felt for Cody, and I was not expecting that. And
yeah,
just like you, I for some reason I just didn't expect to see him so early in the season.
yeah,
I thought they would save Cody for the mid season
yeah,
2-parter or something.
yeah. I thought it was
Mhm.
just gonna be some like I thought it was gonna be some like more like isolated episode like called the solitary clone. I thought it was going to be him like maybe like more of what we saw in the first 2 minutes where it's him getting like cold shouldered by a bunch of other clones, like talk about that dynamic between those guys and like the regs and the elite Clone Force 99, him missing Clone Force 99, like it's bothering him, and it's literally just him going on missions by himself, and he's just like a freelancer between units and stuff. But when they went like, yeah, your next assignment is essentially with Commander Cody, I was just like, oh, okay, all right, cool, yeah. And I was praying the whole time. I was like, please don't die. When he got shot in his arm, I was like, no, don't bring him back. It's been, I literally was like 5 when he was when we last see him. Please don't,
Yeah.
chronologically at least. But yeah, no, awesome.
That would have been awful if they killed him off in the episode that they brought him back.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely
I would have
glad that
had
they
words. I would have had
didn't do
words.
that. I love the one of the in shots too of Crosshair when he's walking down the hallway and he's got his helmet and his full gear on, and it's like, yeah, he looks different and he's probably really proud of how he thinks he's different, but
Mhm,
he's really just the same as the rest of them at this point. He's just a
mhm.
murder machine. And so like that was an interesting shot to see at the very end.
Well, you point out that he had his helmet on. I think this show does a lot, and not just the show. Star Wars does it all the time, but they let people's personalities come out or not when the helmets are on or off. And
Mhm.
Crosshair and Cody both have their helmets knocked off in the fight, and then they both put it back on. But Cody makes that choice to take it back off to talk to the governor,
Mhm.
and Crosshair never takes it back off. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's more comfortable with the helmet on, just being another soldier, another cog in the machine.
Yeah. Do you think because I've been wrestling with it, and we had like a really big conversation about it a couple months ago when we were getting ready for Bad Batch season 2 to come out. And like, is a redemption in sight for him? Like, is this maybe I shouldn't be asking you guys that because you've seen like the first like
Mm,
4.
Nope.
Okay, all
Well,
right, cool.
Oh,
All
no,
right.
no, no. We have the screeners. We have seen several episodes. We have
we've
I
not seen
seen
them
forgot.
all.
through
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen through like episode 10. We're trying to
Okay.
go through them slowly as the show comes out so that we
Good
don't get too
idea.
far ahead.
You have amazing self-control because I would have blown through those things. I would have been like, "Meow."
Well, it's like
Yeah,
I mean, we want to pace it out because I want to cover the show the same way that I would if we hadn't have gotten
sure.
the
Yeah.
screeners. So like we watch an episode and then I make a bunch of videos about it, and then
Mhm,
I'll watch another episode and be like, well, that was wrong. But
mhm.
I'm just gonna leave
Go
those
for it,
theories
man.
up and
Yeah.
In
treat
for
it
a
the same
penny,
way.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Why? Yeah. I'm like, well, that'll make me look dumb, but that's okay.
Well, I guess let me rephrase then. Like, I guess as of this episode, do you think that this kind of alludes to maybe Crosshair having a major decision to make? I don't know how to word it, but like, is
Alex
it
has always
gearing up
been
for that?
Alex, you've been team redemption, right?
I'm saying that I'm open to it, and I see a road for him.
Hmm.
Uh, and I can pose a question back to Mace in a second about why, but I'm kind of fine either way. I mean, I know a lot of people anytime an evil character pops up, they're like, I don't want this one to be redeemed. And it's like, yeah, but that is a major theme of Star Wars. So
Yeah. I've always kind of wanted him to stay bad, like no redemption whatsoever. But you're right, it is very much like Star Wars is about hope, redemption. Like I'm sure a lot of people want to see Crosshair turn out good in the end, but I think it would mean more if he didn't. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like the evil dark side part of me just wants him to go out like, nope, this was my choice and I'm sticking to it. Like we don't get to see that very often in Star Wars, so
it would be a really cool thing for them to do if they kind of allude to him having these conflicts about it and having these doubts about it, and then when he gets to the moment, he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna still do it." It's like that would almost hit as hard. But I'm okay with him if they wanted to, like, in his final moments or whatever, like save them. The whole Darth Vader routine,
Right.
where it's like, I know all the bad stuff I did, but I saved you, so at
yeah.
least I made my choice at the end. I broke free of it eventually. But if you want to send a message of what this kind of, what the Empire is capable of, what it has done to the clone troopers ever since they were bred and created and sent out to get killed by the millions, essentially, that would be a really good way to kind of end it. Him being a slave to what he was forced into doing, not born to do. I don't want to say that he was like, you were destined to die in a war. No, like what he was conditioned into believing, and that would be an even more tragic thing, and maybe even be a lesson for somebody like Omega, because I don't think they have the guts to kill Omega in this show. Like,
No.
absolutely not. So like, it would be like a catalyst moment for her. Like, she sees Crosshair deal with the struggle of all this, and maybe her new mission after the Bad Batch show is over is to find other people who have been victimized by that institution and stuff. That's like far down the road, probably 2-3 years down the road, but like, it's always been kind of something that I've always wondered about, and I was like, I could go either way with it. But yeah,
I was gonna say too, the Omega stuff, I love that as an option to just be a learning experience for Omega as she's getting older and realizing more adult things, I guess. Like she's realizing that people are just bad. People can just be bad. And there's no talking them out of it. There's no convincing them. So I like that idea that this would be a big learning experience for her.
Yeah. Mace, you kind of mentioned him having that potential moment where he's like, no, I'm still going to choose the bad thing. And I'm like, they kind of did that in the season finale, the season 1 finale, which really surprised me when he had that moment of like, oh, I had my chip taken out months ago. I was like, oh my gosh.
You're 3 a.m. You're like, oh my God. Oh, wow. Jesus.
And he's just pissed that his brothers left him. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I get it. The way Tech put it was like, I understand you. I don't agree with you, but I love that moment.
If you go back and watch season 1 after you hear him say that, you look at how he's fighting them and stuff. It's almost like a scorned, like brother or something, where it's like, why did you leave me? How dare you? Like, it's a lot of like, because I don't think at any point, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think at any point he was actively trying to like kill them, right? Like, was he like
at the end of season 1? I believe he basically did the whole like join me dark side thing. Like, I'm giving you all a chance to come back to the Empire so we can all be soldiers again.
Yeah, he wants them to come back and serve what he thinks is the right purpose, like for what he's doing, and they're kind of on the other side of the spectrum. Like, no, we have a greater purpose. We just don't know what it is yet, and we have to find out what it is, and be free.
Do you think that if they do find that area of life that they end up like they find some tropical planet or whatever lifestyle, and they can retire and be each other's buddies for the rest of their lives, however long they have, and Crosshair sees that, do you think that would be a moment for him to be like, oh, you guys can actually figure out where you belong in society and not be a soldier. Okay, I kind of get where you're coming from. Or do you think he's kind of like, now at this point he's like, nah, they left me and it's over. Like they're not my friends anymore. I can't hang out with them.
It's
I
hard
think
to say because like I know he feels like he was replaced by Omega, and he's got that really serious grudge, and so it might be really hard to overcome that. He might just keep that grudge and just like see it get worse and worse over time.
Yeah, that's if he were to come back. I think someone else, one of the other members of the Bad Batch, need to extend an olive branch, I guess.
Yeah,
which I don't know that they super apologized or anything for for the way season 1 went.
Yeah.
So I think Crosshair is struggling with the idea of being something besides a soldier, because his thing is killing. Like that is his enhancement. Is, I guess it's great eyesight, but he's just an incredible shooter.
Yeah.
Wrecker, super strong, Tech, super smart, Hunter, enhanced
Rambo
sensory abilities. Yeah, just Rambo. Hunter has a face tattoo. It's really neat.
Yeah.
But like
Very subtle.
all of them have skills that can be applied outside of the life of a soldier. And Crosshair is kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, this is literally all I do.
Get into sports, get into archery. Like, if he has really good aim, be an athlete or something.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think that there's a life for him outside of violence, but I think he's having a hard time getting there.
It kind of gives me like it just reminds me, and I don't know if they actually confirmed that this is one of the inspirations they took when they wrote in the Bad Batch and like showed all these like clone story points of them dealing with like being considered obsolete now, even though they're like living, breathing human beings. But I always like, especially with Crosshair, it always struck me as like a veteran, like a military veteran, like in real life, where they're kind of at that age where they're not really supposed to be in like field combat anymore. But like when they get to that moment where they're like, yeah, we're discharging, like you're retiring essentially, like you're at that age, you've been doing this for 20 years, you've done us well, thank you. And then he finds out when he gets back home that he feels like at least that there's nothing else he's good at or adequate at or even wants to do. Like he's always kind of just wanted to, ever since he was a 19-year-old kid, he's always been the guy that, gets on the plane and drops down behind enemy lines and does X, Y, and Z. And, even though it affects other people differently, like, some people are traumatized by that experience and they're glad to be kind of out of that. Other people are kind of like, it's what I do. Like, it's scary, but it's kind of just what I do. So is every other dangerous job that you get. And me telling me that I can't do it anymore is effectively, telling me that I can't do what I love anymore. Like I could see Crosshair kind of being faced with that moment where he's like, all my buddies are leaving and I'm still here and it's kind of just me now. And even though he's probably going to last longer than most of the other regular clones running around, because this dude is like the Terminator, he knows that eventually, whether that's on his own, like just getting old, or the Empire just deciding that they don't want him anymore, like he's like, oh, I'm next. Like eventually, like a couple of years from now, like I can act like I'm this and that. I can act like I'm loyal to the Empire, but he sees all of the warning signs like, no, they're going to throw me aside too. And the more he goes back to Rampart for more and more missions, which I'm sure this is going to be like a thing that he tries to break him with or something. I feel like Rampart's still suspicious of like, because doesn't he ask him like, tell me again how Clone Force 99 died? And he's just like, I don't remember. And he's like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, I know you're lying, but I can't prove it, and I still need you.
But I loved that moment where he's like, how long were you stuck on that platform? And he was like 32 days. And he's like, and you still came back. And he laughs and he's like, why?
Yeah, why'd you come back, man? Like playing mind games with him, like some polygraph or something. It's like, why would you come back to that? Like gaslighting him. And he's like, you know why I'm loyal.
Not to mention he won't let the man eat. Every time he sits down.
Yeah, dude just wants to eat his like animated chicken wing, and like right before he eats, and they're like, whew, the animator's like, whew, don't have to animate him chewing a chicken bone. That's awesome.
called into the principal's office. I do love his little meetings with Rampart because Rampart is such a good villain. The way he's playing those little mind games and he slips these like little things in where like Crosshair says Commander Cody and Rampart's like, who? And then he says the designation number and he's like,
dash. And he's like, oh, him, yeah.
oh yeah. So like he is so completely over the clones knowing who each other are and like their nicknames and all that stuff. Like they're all just so disposable to him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mace.
Oh, sorry. I was talking about it the other day, but like I was talking about how Rampart was season 1. I'm not gonna lie, like Rampart didn't impress me. I thought he was like a loser. Now I know that like that's kind of his character, where like he's just like this D-bag, where like he's like the typical Imperial officer core, where Snake cut you in your sleep type of dude. And not everybody's Tarkin, but that doesn't mean that everybody's like an incompetent jerk too. Like he's good at what he does in his own way. It's like a different kind of like Imperial officer that I'm used to. I'm not used to like I'm used to like Grand Admiral Thrawn or the arrogance of Mahdi or like General Tage or somebody like that. They always kind of run in the same kind of circles. And I see Rampart's like, I'm gonna kill this dude because he won't falsify a report. You're like, oh, like I didn't know you rolled like that, dude. Like, oh my gosh. So he's kind of like a cornered dog right now, where it's like I want to make sure that because he knows that like I trust he knows how bad of a situation he's in. Because if Tarkin really looks at that kind of stuff really unfavorably, and we know he does, like this dude will kill somebody for like getting the wrong cup of coffee too many times. But like if we know that he's capable of reacting that negatively to something like that Rampart failed to kind of oversee, it's kind of wild to me that like this dude's like kind of he's kind of like in danger. His life is in danger. His life, at the very least, his career is in danger. Like he's either going to get demoted or worse, he's going to get killed or executed for like incompetence or something like that. So I feel like that's where his story is eventually gonna end. He's either gonna get like scoped by Crosshair, which honestly would be deserved at this point, or Tarkin's gonna clap him really quick or something, where it's like, yeah, you know, if you had just told me, we could have just handled this, but since you want to go behind my back and do all this other stuff, and now Clone Force 99 blew up a Star Destroyer, so what's up, man? It's it's really bad look for him. So I like that. I like his style of being an antagonist. It's kind of unique among Star Wars.
I wanted to bring up the defense recruitment bill that 2 of the clones were talking about, and I assume that has something to do with recruiting an army instead of cloning them, because they can't anymore. They blew it up, and the idea that we're going to see more and more stormtroopers. They're even talking about it as a TK trooper walks by them,
right?
But the poor clones talking about like what is our future? All the regs even. They don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. He's like, I hope it doesn't pass for our sake, because then he's like, we'll be out of a job.
Yeah, these poor guys, like they just have they have no control over what happens next. I feel like it feels like they don't have any control over what happens next in their lives, and that's like the saddest part about the whole thing, because it's like they still go around saying like glory to the Empire, glory to the Empire. They were cheering on when Palpatine declared the Galactic Empire, and not even a year after that happens, they're already getting talked about being not only replaced but probably just shipped off to some place to just eventually die one day. And it's really sad where it's like but then at the same vein they'll hear about like, oh, I hope it doesn't pass because then we'll be out of a job, and they're still looking at Crosshair sideways, and it's just like, oh, this guy over here. And it's like, yeah, that's how the TK troopers are looking at you right now.
Yeah,
like you're the obsolete model in a lot of ways. So yeah,
that's a good point.
I think the defense bill at this point, like that would effectively be it for them, right? I feel like that would be it for them.
I think so.
They probably would get into like their stormtrooper uniforms, any remaining clones, but they would get so assimilated into that new TK kind of thing. They probably wouldn't even be going by their CT numbers. They would just be like getting a new TK number or something like that. And then the only way you'll find out if they're a clone or not is if you take off the helmet or hear their voice and stuff like that. I think there's a Tarkin novel that touches on an older clone because it's set about 5 or 6 years after episode 3, and he's like he's clearly older, so I guess the aging is really starting to get to him, but still good at his job. But he's getting like probably in his 50s or something like that, and so it's interesting to see all that.
Yeah, they popped up here and there.
Yeah,
with their accelerated aging, like you could see that going wrong really quickly with the other TK troopers. And it makes me think of that scene from Obi-Wan when we see the older clone that's kind of just like homeless, begging for credits. It's so sad.
Yeah, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the sad thing is we kind of know too much about the future of the clones, and that some of them stay and they're stormtroopers and all that. But for the most part, we only know about Rex, Gregor, Wolf, Kix technically, but he's another story.
Yeah, like, he's a whole other. Like, oh my, this is like a damn near legend story. He woke up in a new era of Star Wars. You're like, what?
So what do you think is the end game for this series? I feel like the larger story of this series is what happens to the clones. Yeah. Not just the Bad Batch, but what happens to all of the clone troopers. And I'm like, nothing good. Yeah, it doesn't seem like.
It's a long, slow, agonizing process of watching like everybody's favorite clones just slowly either die, get killed, go AWOL. Like the clone army as you know it in the next couple of months essentially is gonna be gone. You'll still see them. We see them in Rebels. They're still going to be probably around. There's probably hundreds of thousands of them still around by the time of Star Wars Rebels. But like as a group, as like a collection of like an army, like it's going to be gone. And something tells me that the end of Bad Batch is, I think the show ends when the clone army kind of just goes away. I think in terms of like a narrative, I think that's what the Bad Batch was always about. It's about Omega. It's about Hunter, Tech, Wrecker, Crosshair, but like the grand, like you said, Alex, like the grand story is how the Republic essentially completely goes away, and the clones are like that final symbol of the Republic, like the final breath of the Republic. The Jedi got killed off completely, as far as we know, the official records or whatever. But then like the clones are kind of like this residue of that era. And it's kind of weird watching, like, I think the Empire is like starting to realize that like clones aren't compatible with how they do things anymore. Like you can't just ask a clone trooper to falsify a report because they're quite literally like trained and bred to like not do that kind of stuff. They're like that's why Wilco was like, no, why would I do that? Like, no, like he followed his orders to a T. Like whenever he told him, go get that guy, go do that for me, go do that, like he did it without even questioning him. But when it became like more like a moral question of, hey, I need you to like lie for me so that I don't get in trouble, and I know you saw this with your own eyes, but you're gonna need to like lie essentially. And I don't think Wilco was worried about him getting caught. I just thought it just didn't like the wires in his head were just like, that doesn't make any sense to me, and it's also wrong, so I won't do that. And so it's just a very tragic like death, pretty much, that you're watching over the course of 2 or 3 seasons. It's really sad.
Yeah,
and we don't know obviously what happens, and I keep jumping to Star Wars Rebels and the idea that Rex is just like, he's not a part of the fight anymore, and he is at this point. So something affects him to be like, I'm gonna go live on an ATTE with Wolf and Gregor, and that's it. I'm hiding, and I'm wondering what that event is gonna be.
Do you think? Okay, then that's a good segue then, because I'm starting to hear rumbles, and my buddy just asked me about it after we both saw the episode this morning. He was like, "Do you think like they're gonna do like a version of like a clone rebellion, like a different version?" And honestly, the more I look at this, the more I'm kind of like, yeah, I think they're kind of building up towards something like that. Because now that you added that, where it's like what caused Rex to find Wolf and Gregor and then just go, oh, nope, middle of nowhere, ATTE, and then we'll just go hunt and fish for the rest of our lives. Like what caused him to do that? Because we see Rex after, episode 3, eventually kind of splits up with Ahsoka, and then he's kind of like still kind of doing his like covert ops type of stuff. So like he's still active there. Why wouldn't he still be doing it? Because he's still perfectly fighting capable. Like he did a lot of good work for the Rebels crew. So like it's not that he's gotten too old to do any of that stuff. We see him later on. So yeah, and the more I think about it, I think it's not going to be the same exact way it goes down, because obviously it was a Camino clone rebellion. And that's not viable anymore. It doesn't look like, but I could see that being a thing. Maybe not this season, but I feel like we'll have an answer to that this season in some form or fashion, like the next time we see Rex or something. So
I would love to see a clone rebellion.
I would love / hate to see it, because it's gonna end poorly.
It's gonna end very badly. Yeah. I just think back to the Star Wars Rebels episode where I know this could have easily just been like Rex is having PTSD, but I keep thinking about that moment where they're fighting the battle droids, and he's like Kanan is talking to him, and he doesn't hear Kanan. He thinks he hears something else, and he's like, Cody, and like I just like something in my head. I was just like, what if he's like imagining himself like 15 years ago when they tried to do their little clone rebellion as like a final act of defiance, and like Cody dies there.
Oh God.
Like it's gonna hit me as hard as Siege of Mandalore did. I just had this void in my stomach after watching. I was just like, I don't want to do anything today. I want to forget that I saw this and watch it for the first time again. It was just, that's gonna hurt.
I wonder if Filoni has had all of this in his head since the very beginning. Like, I know how this is gonna play out, and it'll be fine. Or if like somewhere along the way they were like, we have to like show what happened to the clones at some point, and it's gonna be really devastating to these fans that have grown up with these characters. And he's like, oh God, how do I do this?
Yeah, that's gonna suck. With that crap eating grin he always has, where he's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's gonna suck. I don't know.
The 40-gallon cowboy hat he has on. He's just like, I don't know, man. Maybe.
In a few years, he's gonna wear a shirt to Celebration that says Cody lives, and we'll all freak out.
Yeah, it'll be what's the running joke that like Ahsoka's like in everything now? It'll be like a Cody thing now, where like they just bring back Cody. It'll be like it'll be a Star Wars Episode 9 sequel, and Tamara Morrison at the age of like 85 will come out and be like, I'm known as Cody, and be like, oh my God, here it goes again. But yeah,
it is funny that I want to come back to Cody and just ask if we think he's going to be in this season later. But I also think it's interesting that he has gone AWOL, and even if he's not, there was talk when the Kenobi series was originally going to be a movie. The writer Stuart Beattie said that he wanted Cody to be like an ally to Obi-Wan on Tatooine.
Awesome.
Where like he got past his inhibitor chip and showed up and was like, hey, sorry, don't want to kill you anymore, want to be friends. So I'm like, it's interesting that is a bit of an option now.
Yep. When I read that, I was so mad. I was like, I loved the series. It was awesome. It's fun to look back at and watch, because I'm still shocked that we even got it in the first place. Like, I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, this can't be real. But when I read that, I was like, oh, I really would have liked to see that. That would have been fun, where he's like running away and somebody's chasing him. You don't know what it is, and it turns out it's a clone. Oh no, but it's like Cody, and you're like, oh, it's Cody, and then it's like, oh, he's working with oh my God, they're friends. It's like, oh my God, like it would have been like just a rail like of emotions just going everywhere. It would have been awesome. But I think what we got was pretty fun. It's just that would have been so sweet.
I think if that show could have been just like 2 or 3 episodes longer, we could have gotten that as like a little mini arc in there, because they had Tim, they had him in there, and that tells me that like they were seriously considering the Cody stuff and couldn't make it work, but they were like, we'll still put Tim in there.
Yeah. Tamura was still sitting there on his phone, like figuring out how like Apple Music worked, and they're like, hey Tim, we can't do the Cody thing, but you want to like put on this armor? And he's like, yeah, fine, whatever. And it's like, just here, wear this wig too. And he's like,
yeah, they just started rolling cameras, and he was on set for Book of Boba Fett, and they're like,
he actually lost his wallet in real life. So when he said spare any credits, he was unironically asking Ewan McGregor for money to go to Taco Bell. Yeah, no.
Well, do we think Cody is going to reappear in this season or series?
I
Or is he
would-
like, I'm out of here?
I want to say yes, but then again, we didn't see Hauser after the Ryloth thing, and I was expecting to see Hauser again, and we
Yeah.
never saw him again. I don't even know if he's still alive, which is crazy to me, because after doing something like that, Rampart doesn't seem to be above just outright killing you if you're like, oh, you're refusing to obey a direct order and you're a clone, which is already going against you. So yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see him again. I've seen a few clips from the trailer. Like it looks like a clone that maybe looks like Cody. He has like the standard haircut that all of them had in like season 1, and I was like, it could literally be anybody, but maybe that's probably what like the Clone Conspiracy episode was, because it certainly wasn't any of the Bad Batch. It wasn't Crosshair, and it wasn't any of the other like unique clones that we had seen to that point. The only other one that I know of that has that haircut was Cody, and he was wearing like civilian clothing. So I'm wondering like, what the hell? You guys know this, so I'm not even trying to like, yeesh.
I'm just sitting here quiet.
I hope we do see him again, because, and maybe it wouldn't happen until the finale or like one of the episodes leading up to the finale, but I feel like it would be pretty tragic if they didn't bring him back at least one more time to show like where he is, where he's going, what is he up to. Yeah, I don't know that they would save something like that for the next season, because they brought it up so early in this season. It makes me think that it would come back up.
Yeah. And the final episode's being called like the Summit, which is like the mountain that we see at the end of season 1. And then the final episode is called Plan 99, and I was like, that feels like a very final episode. Like that just feels like a full circle episode. Like let's do let's do this thing one more time, and then it's like all out in a blaze of glory. So I have no idea where it's going. Like I don't know if like, is this like a show that's gonna last for 3 seasons or 2? Is this the last season? Like, oh wow, yeesh.
Could be. We got 7 with Clone Wars, 4 with Rebels, 2 with Resistance.
Hey, man. Yeah, it could happen. And it might be like just a natural ending too. This might have been from the beginning what I don't think Dave Filoni projects are in danger of getting like canceled or anything like that, especially in like the animated form. But if anything ends at season 2, I could see it just being like a natural end to this particular story. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the characters are going to die. It just means that this story of the Bad Batch isn't a story that's going to be followed anymore. You'll probably see Omega in another show down the road. You'll see like another Book of Boba Fett thing where you see like a 38-year-old Omega. Like it'd be pretty cool. Like, it'd be really awesome to see like a female version of Tamara Morrison. You're like, oh yeah, cool.
that's been a joke that we've made before. Just put a blonde wig on him, and let him go. Like I would love to see.
Hello, Rika. You're like, oh god, it doesn't work. It's like
Rika.
You're like, wait, no.
First of all, you're 60.
I always liked the fan casting of, I can't remember the actress's name now, but she played Bobby Draper in The Expanse. And
I know you're talking about.
oh yeah, she's fantastic.
This is gonna bother me. Hang on.
I do get the sense that Disney Plus series, I think, have a little bit more flexibility, where I think it's just this story I want to tell will last X seasons, and it gets greenlit or it doesn't. And I'm sure that if just nobody watched the Bad Batch, then they would cancel it. But I think enough people are watching it that Dave Filoni can probably just be like, yeah, it's going to be a 3-season show, and then we'll start up something else. I don't know.
Frankie Adams. I was listening, by the way.
Yeah. You're all good. You're all good. No, I wanted to know too. You're doing important work.
I'm doing the research. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've covered just about everything. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Mace, before we let you get your plugs out there?
Nothing. Oh, plugs. Really? I wasn't expecting that. I'd be happy to. Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys are so gracious. Thank you. No, no, nothing. That pretty much covers everything. I'm so good at like talking everybody's ear off. I blinked and it was already 55 minutes.
Oh,
I was
no,
like,
it's
oh,
great.
Jesus.
It's great
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. So no, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. It warmed my heart that you guys think so highly of me, because the feeling is mutual. Molly, it was a very humorous encounter at Star Wars Celebration, because I said hi to you, but I didn't know your name, and I was like, oh, that's Alex's. Oh my god. And I told my friend, who's like an even bigger fan than I am, and I was like, hey, I said hi to Alex, and I said hi, and I didn't know Molly's name. He was like, you didn't know Molly's name? I was like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It was so funny. But I'm glad that you guys feel so highly of me, because the feeling is mutual for both of you guys. You are exceptionally awesome content creators, and you deserve all of the good things. And thank you again for having me. And I know Alex, I didn't want to make Alex feel old, so I won't go too long.
You already
on
did it
but,
once today. You can do it again.
Yeah, I might as well just go ham now. No, but I've been watching you guys' content for a few years now, ever since I was in. When did you guys start?
2015.
Yeah, I had just graduated from high school, I think, and I had started. It was you guys. It was I think it was Eckhart's Ladder later on. And then I think the Lore Master just is something to listen to, and it was funny. There was like a big YouTube like craze for me for a while, and you guys were up there, and so it's so surreal now to be like, wow, like I got to chill with these guys. That's so cool. Like, awesome.
You're on the show.
Wow, like I've made it. This is my peak. Yeah,
You're here explaining Star Wars.
Look at
it's
me.
It's not that hard.
Right. True. Very true. Very true. But I just wanted to thank you guys. It means a ton. It's so satisfying to be able to tell my buddies, like, I can't do this. I'm going to be on Star Wars Explained today, talking about episode 3 of the Bad. They're like, all right, okay, dude.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's just my long way of saying thank you.
Aww.
Well, I don't want to speak for Molly, but don't feel bad about forgetting her name. I forget my own friends' names all the time. Like, I forget her name all the time. No, like if they're a YouTube personality, like I tend to call them by their handle, and then I'm like, what's your real name?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that happened to me constantly when we were at Celebration. So no worries there.
It's so weird when people call me by my handle. It's still weird to this day. They're like, Mace, what's up? And I'm like, that's MaceAhWindu's name. Like, that's not my name. My name's oh wait, no, I'm a personality. Okay, no, yeah, that's me. No, it's so funny.
Yeah.
So funny. The Celebration was like really scary, because it was the first time that like I was in an area where a bunch of people might recognize you. So like there would be people walking up to you awkwardly, and you'd be like checking out like Star Wars toys. They'd be like, hey man, like, can I get a picture? And I'm like, who are you? Oh, that's a thing. Okay. No, yeah, fine. Sorry, my bad. I'd be like, this stranger came up to me and wants a picture. Why does he want a picture? No, it was very funny. Very funny.
Well, I hope we get to hang out again soon in person.
Yeah.
But there are already links in the description to your TikTok, your YouTube, your Twitter. But please let everyone know what you do, where they can find you.
Sure. Well, thanks again, guys. And thank you all the listeners. I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. If you would like to see any content that I talk about, you can mainly find me on TikTok at MaceAhWindu, or Twitter at MaceAhWindu, or Instagram at MaceAhWindu_official. I'm still working on that one. But yeah, and on YouTube at did I already say YouTube? No, I didn't say YouTube. YouTube at MaceAhWindu, where I'm kind of been doing like a push recently. I want to start doing more longer form content, because TikTok doesn't care about its creators. But yeah, so yeah, I need to go where the paper is.
Oh, and YouTube is well known for how much they care.
Hey man, all I know is I had a video get like 8 million views, and they gave me a crisp $5 bill for that day. So I knew at that moment, I was like, oh nah, F this, absolutely not. I'm done. Absolutely not. So at least YouTube will give me 10 and a check mark. No. But you guys can find me there. I talk about like various Star Wars topics, not unlike Star Wars Explained. I don't want to go into you guys' territory or anything.
We're all talking about the same stuff.
Yeah, we all are really. Yeah, but yeah, I do appreciate all of you guys. If any of you or none of you want to come over, thanks for listening today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much again for spending an hour with us.
Absolutely.
We will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Sure.
And we're going to stay on and answer some chat questions for a little while. But
Awesome.
thanks again, Mace. Please go follow him. Check him out. Check out his TikTok. Subscribe to his YouTube channel.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Well, I knew he was going to be great to talk to, but he did not disappoint.
We still have so much to learn ourselves about TikTok. So like,
oh, for sure. I mean, I just make YouTube shorts sometimes, and if I make a YouTube short, I'm like, I might as well put it on TikTok as well.
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, making content for TikTok is so much work because TikTok literally like wants their creators to post like 5,
Constantly.
6, 7 times a day. That's too much. That's too much TikTok.
Yes. I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered.
But let's dive into some chat questions here. While you scroll up, Molly, I'll read the first one. From our first super chat is from Zephyr. Thank you so much, Zephyr. I really liked Cody's characterization in this episode. Wasn't expecting him to go AWOL so soon in the season, but perhaps we will see Rex trying to help him. Rex could call the Bad Batch for help. I really, really hope that's the case. I don't want this to be the last of Cody.
Oh yeah. Hold on. Sorry, I was scrolling and then I was reading chat. Let me read this question again. AWOL so soon. Yeah. So like in our reaction today, that was immediately what I said out loud. I was like, oh, he'll get to go find Rex, but like he has no idea where Rex is. So I don't know how that would happen, but I just need that to happen. But
like Rex and Cody together get, it's weird that people, myself included, have been wanting them to fight for so long. Ever since season 2 of Star Wars Rebels, I was like,
I never wanted them to fight.
Yeah, well, I wanted them to fight. But now it's the complete opposite. I'm like, oh, now they'll hug.
No fights, only hugs.
Yeah, please. It'll be an exciting thing, but for a different reason. I just thought it would be, really intense to have two clones who worked so closely together before, and now they're on opposite sides of the fight. But I'm happy that Cody can now approach Rex from a place of friendship.
Yeah. And I can't stop thinking about and now I'm going to just continue to call him Mace because he brought it up. What he said about Cody possibly like baiting Crosshair with a bunch of different stuff. Like I can't get that idea out of my head now. And I'm so curious if that was the goal, if that was part of it, like if he was just doing that a little bit. But
yeah, if he was going to be like, hey, if it was like a subtle way of saying, do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. If he says anything that is along the lines of like, oh, maybe the order was bad, then we'll leave together.
Yeah. Or if that wasn't really part of his plan, he knows that at least he tried to like drop some subtle hints, and like that last bit between the two of them was like, we got to live with all this. Don't forget that.
Yeah. So. I think that, and I'm building this off of something that you've said before, but I can't get past him saying good soldiers follow orders in like a cheerful way, because it was in season 1 when Wrecker was saying good soldiers follow orders, and obviously we'd heard that before in the Clone Wars and stuff, but you pointed out that they always say that kind of when they're in distress and when they're doing something that we, the audience, know they should not be doing. And it's almost like the clones also know that. So good soldiers follow orders is like the chip maybe trying to push them and convince them, nope, this is right, do this. Like that Wrecker says it when his chip activates and he's going after Omega, and obviously he doesn't want to go after Omega. So to me, this is, even though Cody wasn't under duress or anything, I think he's just like, yeah, good soldiers follow orders. It's his way of convincing himself that he did the right thing.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this earlier. There's something to Cody saying that again, because now that we're starting to see all these clones kind of question it, push out of it a little bit, like push out of the control that the chip originally had over them. It would be so fitting for this all to end in like, yes, the chip caused them all to turn and it caused them all to go in this mode where it's like good soldiers follow orders, but all those soldiers learned from the Jedi. So what if it ended up being good soldiers follow orders from good people? And like that's what it ends up being in the end. Like they eventually snap out of it. They realize, yeah, we'll follow orders, but only from good people. Like it seems like that's kind of where it's headed. And it would be so poetic for that to happen because the Empire doesn't think about that stuff. You know, they're just like, yeah, put a chip in there and make them follow orders.
Yeah.
But they've all already learned how to be good people.
I think the whole following orders thing that has a very bad connotation for good real world reasons of Nazis just saying, "Oh, I was just following orders," and it's like that's not an excuse, but that doesn't make every order a bad order. So, yeah, it would be an interesting arc for that phrase if a phrase can have an arc, which I think it can, I think that's interesting.
Like, especially for the younger crowd that's watching this show, it would kind of tie everything together for them because at this point, you got to know that phrase. And then if it comes back again in that context of just very bluntly saying, yes, good soldiers follow orders, but not from you.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And I like the idea of, and Star Wars has always done this, showing examples of, hey, here's a bad leader, here's a good leader, here are the kinds of people you should listen to. It's like, hey, if Padme gives an order, it's probably worth following. If Tarkin gives an order, probably want to ignore it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Oh, I love this next one. Justin Carter, thanks for the super chat. Dear God, I can't believe I rooted for the Clinkers. I saw a couple people talk about this in chat, and I kind of agree. Like, you start to realize, like, wait, it was kind of like what I said earlier, like Cody thinking, are we the baddies? And like, it was cool seeing them fight droids again because it's just very nostalgic for everyone. And like, yeah, no, this makes sense. But then you think about who has reprogrammed these droids and why. You're like, oh, no, wait.
Yeah. I thought that having the battle droids back is just fun. It's one of those things where, like, I think when I first started watching the Clone Wars and the 2008 movie, and I was like, oh, the droids are like so goofy and so over the top, but you know, you watch the show, you fall in love with the characters, and then you get to the Bad Batch and they're still the same over the top goofy droids, and I'm like, yeah, they're back. It's just it's just one of those Star Wars things. Yeah, it comes around full circle. I'm happy to have them back. But yeah, I think that the droids were on the right side of the fight this time. And it's an interesting flip. And that's one of the things that I think makes this episode so good, is showing us like, look, it's a Clone Wars fight, but not really. It's like a spot the difference picture.
Yeah, like if you were watching this episode without the sound on, you'd be like, great, love this. Classic Clone Wars. But if you listen to what's actually happening and you follow the story, you realize how it's flipped.
That's a really cool point that even I think if you left it on mute, I think the message would come across. And I forget the exact quote, but George Lucas said something about wanting Star Wars to almost feel like a silent movie, where if you watched it without sound, you would still get it. You
Mhm.
would know visually, like those are the bad guys, those are the good guys,
Oh,
and
yeah,
you.
especially with what you drew, all those that whole ending montage where Cody's kind of standing there looking around, and he sees the TK troopers kind of like shuffling in to this city and like doing what the Empire does, taking over without a word. Like there's no conversations being had in that part. You're just seeing the soldiers take over the city and the families and the other people be like, what? They all look confused and they're kind of like, what's happening? So I think definitely by the end of this episode, if you are paying attention, you can see what's happening, and you see the look on Cody's face whenever he has his helmet off. Like he looks distressed. He's like, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if what we're doing here is right.
Mhm. But yeah, just even the subtle moments in the action where they run into that family, and we see the mother and the child are scared of the clones. It's like that they get that message across without the dialogue.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was so effective to have this continuation series of the Clone Wars be flipped on its head to be like, yeah, the droids are the underdogs fighting for what's right now.
Yeah.
Also, it's just such a good thing to explore at this point in the timeline of, there were several thousand systems that left the Republic and they became separatists. So when the Republic became the Empire, why would they be a part of that empire? But Palpatine wants them, so they're going to go take over. And it just makes sense for Tawny Ames to be like, why are you here? We're not
Yeah.
a part of your clique.
We didn't want that, and we don't want you.
Uh-huh.
Get out of here. But yeah. I loved that planet, by the way. It was
Oh,
I,
Desix is awesome.
I said it earlier, but when we were recording our commentary, which you can check out on Patreon,
In a couple
plug
days.
in a couple days. It was giving very Dune vibes, which
Yeah,
I
there's kind of
liked.
like red dust everywhere, but I just the walled city here looks so cool.
Hmm. Let the spice flow.
Yeah, I I talked about this in the review that I did a little bit, but it also kind of reminded me of Ferrix and this idea that like if you look at Ferrix or Desix, it's like that's no paradise, and yet the people who live there are proud of their
Hmm.
planet, of their city, of what they do. They feel it's worth defending, and I like seeing that. That
Yeah.
a place doesn't have to be uh subjectively beautiful to be of value.
Hell yeah.
Next up from WC1376C, sounds almost like a clone uh, title, clone
Almost.
number. Hey, Star Wars Explained, Crosshair needs counseling to deal with that depression. I forgot where Cody got that scar. As for the name, try it phonetically. It works better.
Hold on. Phonetically?
I am struggling.
I don't get it.
Me neither.
We'll come back to that. Absolutely, Crosshair needs counseling. Like the biggest things that he's dealing with right now are this enormous grudge that he's holding against the Bad Batch for leaving him, replacing him, whatever, despite the fact that they've reached out to him and like tried to mend things. So there's that, there's the grudge, there's just, I mean, all the clones have gone through so much trauma that they should all have their own personal like therapists, but I'm sure that would
That's
be expensive.
Ice in the chat says, "This is Star Wars. Who doesn't need counseling?"
Right? Like,
That is true.
I think, what did I say? It was at Celebration at the Ray panel that I was on, and someone in the audience asked what I would change under Ray's version of the Jedi. And I would say everyone gets a counselor or therapists for everyone. Like, everyone just has access to mental health care. That would make
Which
such
is
a
a thing in
difference.
the High Republic, which apparently they just did away with.
Yeah. I don't know where Cody got his scar.
I don't either. That's a good question. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to look that up. Maybe I'll do a short on it.
Childhood trauma explained? Yeah, why not? Let's see. Next up, Matthew Byron. Thanks for the next super chat. What do you think will bring the Bad Batch to Coruscant? Will we see a redemption arc for Crosshair this season? So we kind of already touched on the redemption stuff, but we can talk about it again. But what do you think brings them to Coruscant?
I don't know. That's something from the trailer that I was like, "Oh god, like Omega's in the same room with Palpatine. What is happening?" So she is in what looks like the Senate chamber, and Palpatine is standing there in the middle, and I think you can see like hollows of Camino in the background. I don't know why they would be there though. I mean, they've been a pretty uh they've been pretty insistent that they don't go anywhere that the Empire would find them. Although maybe that went out the window after the first 2 episodes. Hunter even had the line like, "We're done hiding anyway." So
Yeah.
maybe it's an extraction. Maybe a clone needs help getting out. It's basically a step up from Gregor in season 1. They had to get him off of I forget the name of that planet where they ran into Scorch and the Republic Commandos. So maybe someone needs to get off of Coruscant.
Yeah, it's got to be something big to bring them there, because that seems like the one place that they would not want to go. Like, the heart of the Empire seems like kind of a dangerous spot for all of them. So
Darrow is the name of that planet. Thank you, literal table 756.
I'm gonna be really interested to see what it is that does bring them there, because especially Hunter and how overprotective he is with Omega, they're not gonna want to bring her there. I don't know if we saw her there in the trailers or not, but like,
Yeah, she was in, I think, a Senate pod or the Senate building or something.
it's gotta be something really, really big to bring them there.
David McKay suggested that Dex's Diner gets a new menu, and that's worth risking a trip to Coruscant.
That's big enough for me.
I mean, and
Dex's
Jane
Diner starts selling Star Wars trading cards, and everyone has to go.
Yeah.
Even though,
yeah, freaking Denny's. Jane Dalton suggests, could they be picking up Cody on Coruscant? Okay,
yeah.
if Cody makes contact with Rex, and then Rex gets in touch with the Batch, and the Batch know Cody, that would actually make a fun connection between, Cody just did a mission with Crosshair, and now he needs to escape with all of Crosshair's brothers that defected.
Yeah.
Will we see a redemption arc this season? I have no clue, first of all, and I don't get the sense that this is going to be the final season, and I don't think we're going to get that answer for Crosshair until the final season.
Yeah. I don't really want him to be redeemed, but I would be fine if he is. I'm not going to be upset either way, but
Yeah.
The way that we talked about it earlier, and Mace brought up the point of it being a big learning experience for Omega to see that happen. It would be hard for her, but like it's a lesson that she needs to learn, that some people just will not change, no matter how many times you try to get through to them. So
I'm just starting to train my mind to be like, the default in Star Wars is a redemption arc. But I am of the opinion that, not everyone does get redeemed. So it's worth exploring. And what does that look like in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Donnie Rand has the next super chat. Thank you, Donnie. R.I.P. Weiler and Nova, 2 new clones who didn't survive the episode they're introduced in again. This season has been amazing, but brutal for clone fans.
I meant to bring them up, but I could not remember their names, which is just me not doing my own research for our discussion here today. But yeah, I loved having them in this, and the fact that they got name dropped was so important, because like when did they both die, or was it just one of them?
Weiler died pretty quickly, and then Nova got to do some cool stuff and then exploded like a Nova.
Yeah. So I think it was Nova that Cody literally like said out loud by name, which you're not going to hear that anymore from anyone in the Empire, because they don't care about names.
Yeah, he didn't go, oh, CT5532. Oh, my favorite.
Yeah, so that was a great moment where, I mean, not great because he died, but like
telling moment.
The writing was so good to have him say their names, because that comes up a couple of different times in this episode, to just point out how the Empire's just done with clones. They made them back to just being numbers, and at this point they're just wanting to ship them off somewhere, which is really sad.
Yeah. I wanted to point out Dima Jadar in the chat has been wanting us to talk about Nova. I'm glad we got there. But yeah, I thought Nova was a great new clone. Got to like wordlessly communicate an awesome thing with Crosshair, where I think Nova threw the bomb onto that B1 droid, and then Crosshair shot the droid so it would fall into the droidica's shield. So cool. And Nova also, I think, did the failed droid popper on one of the droidicas, but then later got his revenge by popping it in the face while it was rolling at him. So
yes,
Nova got to do a lot of cool stuff in his 10 minutes of fame.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. I don't know that there's that much more to say about him, but I'm sad that he died.
That's fine to say.
I like what you said.
Is that your official statement? Am sad.
Am sad. I like what you said about how he went out like a supernova. Like maybe that's why they named him.
I'm sure it is. They were like, and this clone's going to explode. What should we name him? Nova.
Am sad. That's my official statement. Thank you, Babbles the Clown, for the next super chat. Some love to an exciting season and rejuvenated 2023. Thanks,
Babbles.
This is an exciting season. I don't know that. Do I feel rejuvenated in the new year? I
feel pretty rejuvenated.
Okay, so we have been doing yoga every day, so that's been helping. There's a lot of other stuff I could be doing to feel more rejuvenated, but we'll get to that eventually.
Someday. I'm feeling pretty good about this year so far.
Yeah. It's off to a great start.
Ice has the next super chat. Thank you. I really enjoyed this one. It was a great episode. Great to see Cody again, and I really like how he was handled. I have questions, but in a good way. Mysterious super chat.
Indeed.
I thought this was one of the best episodes of the Bad Batch. Kind of like I said, when Crosshair's in an episode, you're like, all right, it's on.
Yeah.
Like when he popped back up in the mid-season of season 1 for the Braca episodes. Oh, so good.
Yeah. I have questions, but in a good way. That's literally me watching any new show. I have so many questions, but I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
I'm never
Fun
mad
questions.
about entertainment.
Fun questions to speculate on.
Yeah.
We brought this one up already.
Oh,
but
did we? Okay.
Still, the fact that Cody learned to negotiate from Obi-Wan, the negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I thought that they treated Cody very well. Just like who said earlier? Zephyr said he really liked Cody's characterization. Totally agree. I think they nailed him.
Yes.
Animated Sky, thank you for the next one. What do you guys think of a clone rebellion like in Legends? Obviously, it won't be on Camino, but with so many going AWOL, it feels like they're building to it. Yeah.
I have to think that that's going to happen.
I think that's likely.
I mean, it's going to be like clone rebellion or like massive clone casualties, which seems a little too dark for this show.
I don't know. It did. I mean, Crosshair and those special troopers from season 1, they murdered people with a flamethrower in season 1. So who knows?
That's true. Oh, when those two droids got flamethrowered, yeah, they got set on fire at the end of this episode. I was kind of bummed. I was like, oh no, they high-fived earlier.
Yeah. I do think that we're going to build to something big with the clones, a big group of them, some kind of, I hope it's not too depressing of a send-off, but like a last hurrah for clones.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it a little bit with shoot, what was the hot clone's name that we were talking about? Hauser. I don't know why.
Yeah, everyone knows that he is the hot clone.
I don't know why we all just like agreed that he was the hot clone. It was the hair, but anyway.
I have that from last week.
When you
look at that man and tell me he's not hot. You can't.
You can't do it. When he defected and was like trying to rally the troops to get on his side, and like now we're seeing it happen with Cody. Like we're seeing it happen very subtly, which I like. It's not a switch like Order 66 was. It's a slow progress of like, are we on the right side? Like, are we doing the right thing as the Empire starts to get bigger and bigger and more powerful? So, yeah.
To me, I think the way I see it is that the chip activates and someone like Rex, who knew about it, was able to fight it a little bit. But for most of the clones, they had no idea. And so it just happened. And so I think they think that what they've been doing is right. And I feel like the chip still has some influence over them. The batch even kind of suggested that to Crosshair in season 1 before he said, oh, I took that out. So I think that every clone kind of has this breaking point where they realize, oh, this is not what we should be doing. And this is not in line with what we did before when we were part of the Republic. So I think more and more clones are going to reach that breaking point.
Yeah. Agreed.
Dragonus Prime has the next super chat. Thank you, Dragonus. It's your dude. While I'd have liked to see Empire Cody for longer, that's not who he is. A good soldier, but like Obi-Wan said, good man that Cody.
Oh, so sad.
I think some people. I'm speaking about this from my perspective, where for so long I have seen Cody as the clone that stayed with the Empire. So part of me is kind of like, I'm surprised he went AWOL so quickly, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm ultimately happy about it.
I get the feeling that he's been, excuse me, having these thoughts for a while, and then him working with Crosshair was kind of like the final push.
Yeah.
And because it seemed like the next day he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I agree. Ice has the next 2 super chats. Thank you, Ice. How they're handling Cody is interesting. I would have thought he'd be pro Empire because of his affinity for protocol, but this is a different take, and I have to say I like it. Can't wait to see how it continues. Yeah, I think that, kind of like we talked about with Mace, that he was trained in a sense by Obi-Wan. He spent the most time with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is also a man of protocol. He follows the Jedi Council's mandates more often than not. So I think it makes sense as to why he went through with Order 66, but Obi-Wan also knows what's right and what's wrong. So I think it also makes sense that Cody would be trying to reconcile Order 66 after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like trying to make sense of it, which I can't even imagine how you would go about doing that. Because when the switch first happened, he was like trying to kill Obi-Wan. Like it was immediately the worst it possibly could be. And so, yeah, over time, it's just, I guess it's just worn off. I don't know if they're going to actually go into the chips, how they work, how they're supposedly wearing off. I don't know if they're going to go into the details.
I kind of have that sense that they're really strong when they're first activated. They're the strongest they will ever be, and then there's probably still some influence there, but it's easier to break out of that spell the longer you're under its influence. And they started talking about this in the Kanan comic from, I think, 2015, that for 7 or 8 years now, I've been used to this idea that, like, oh, you can snap a clone out of it. And so now we're getting to see that on a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
Ice's next one says, I must say, though, hearing Cody say good soldiers follow orders, even now, that gave me chills. I think because we didn't get to before. I've talked about that line a couple times already today, but yeah, I agree that it was something we haven't been able to hear Cody say, but also he said it in a different way. He wasn't distressed when he said it. It was just kind of like a what are you gonna do kind of thing.
Yeah. He said it so nonchalantly, almost to the point where it was like, wait, did I say that like I'm supposed to say that, or did I just say that out of habit? I don't know. Yeah, that was weird. It caught me off guard.
I think it's a sign that he is trying to stay with the Empire. Like, he wants to make that work, but he knows deep down it's wrong.
Yeah.
Cassia Pidgeot has the next super chat. Thank you. To the Empire, all the clones might as well be a bad batch of soldiers compared to TK troopers, so it makes so much sense to explain all of their fates.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked what Mace said about like eventually the TK troopers are going to look down at the clones and be like, "Oh, you guys are the old model. Like, get out of here."
Yeah.
Which is so sad. But eventually that's what's going to happen cuz they're going to look like they I don't know, they're going to look like they're lesser than and like they're defective in some way, which is really sad.
Right. I think that the the Empire probably does all view clones and their willingness to question orders. Some of them, not all. Crosshair doesn't seem to mind, but the clones and their morality is going to be viewed as defective. And that'll be part of the reason that they're like, all right, stormtroopers are the way to go.
Yeah. But yeah, to the Empire, everything is looking more and more like regimented, and everyone's going to eventually be recruited, right? Like that's what that whole law that the clones were talking about, what was it called?
The defense recruitment bill, yeah.
Yeah. So like they're already talking about that amongst themselves. So they have the fear already in the back of their minds, like we're going to get replaced, we're going to get tossed to the side and replaced by just regular people who on their own want to support the Empire. We were kind of grandfathered into all this. But
Yeah. And the fact that a lot of people just view them as, oh, military assets that were created and paid for isn't going to help anything.
Yeah.
Trill Jen, thank you for the next super chat. Do you think Cody and Obi-Wan will meet again? Maybe we even see something like the scrapped idea involving Cody from the Kenobi show. We did bring that up. I don't think so. That's just my guess. Since they scrapped it and it wasn't in the Kenobi series, it's possible Cody could pop up after that, but I don't get the sense that Obi-Wan Kenobi has seen a clone on Tatooine in those 10 years.
Yeah, I don't see them meeting up again. Unfortunately, like I think the Obi-Wan show was going to be the place for it, and because we didn't get it there, I think we may have lost the opportunity.
It's a fun idea, but I'm just not expecting it to happen now. But we'll have to wait and see what happens to Cody.
Yeah.
Daniel Chick has the next super chat. Thank you, Daniel. The clone with the backpack was so skilled. Sad he died.
Wait, don't they all have little backpacks?
I think that was Nova specifically.
Oh, okay.
Because Nova had a bunch of poppers, bunch of droid poppers. That sounds like drugs. He had a bunch of droid poppers.
Yeah, I loved the addition of the poppers, by the way.
Excellent.
Like that just felt like a good callback, a really good callback to some early stuff. And also it's calling back to, again, the just really good training that the Jedi gave to the clones.
To the clones, and the whole popper thing where he didn't roll it slow enough to go through the shield, where it's like, first of all, that's setting up that you have to pass things through the shield slowly so that the droid thing makes sense later. But it also is like, oh yeah, it's the Onderon stuff that they set up where Ahsoka had to train Saw Gerrera and Steela Gerrera how to roll droid poppers into their shields.
And that there's a very specific the way that you have to do it, apparently.
And Nova messed it up the first time, but he didn't let that phase him, and he took down the droid the second time.
Yeah.
Good for Nova. You kept your cool.
Mr. Shu has the next super chat here. As someone named Cody IRL, I'm just glad that I got to see my character in screen again. I really hope he gets a heroic or happy ending.
I'll
Yeah.
hope for happy.
Oh, yeah, because heroic could mean going
Yeah.
out like a hero.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think we all, at least everyone that grew up watching the Clone Wars or liked Clone Wars, I think we all want the best for Cody, especially after this episode.
Yeah. I need to take a quick restroom break. Do you need anything while I'm up?
I'll probably have to go take one of my own while you're back.
Okay.
But until then, this is my show.
You got it.
Oh no. I hate being full screen. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next super chat, which is from Crash Punk. Thank you, Crash Punk. Chances of Crosshair dying in this season. So I've talked a lot about Crosshair and how I don't want him to be redeemed. And that might just be me. I don't know if anyone in chat agrees with that, but I kind of think it would be more interesting if he just didn't get redeemed. But the idea of him dying, like, amongst being redeemed, I hate that even more because that is just constantly happening in Star Wars. We always get a last minute redemption right before death. Like, we've seen enough of that. So I don't like that option either. Crosshair dying and still like going down with the ship would just be, that would just be even more sad because he would just be like, yeah, no, I'm not giving this up and I'll die trying to support the Empire. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, but I don't know. I'm curious to what chat thinks. Do you think he should die? Do you think he should be redeemed and die? Do you think he should not be redeemed and then die? Like, it's so complicated. Even the fact that we're ahead by a couple episodes, we still don't know what's going to happen. So Tin Man says Crosshair needs jail time. That's also something that Star Wars hasn't really explored a lot of, is like, how do you get these people who might not be redeemed to pay for what they've done? That was like the whole Ben Solo thing. Like, what would have happened to Ben Solo had he survived and come back to that whole little resistance party? They would have been like, no, throw him in jail. He's in trouble.
He was bad. I agree. I think I caught up with most of what you were saying, that atonement is something that hasn't been
that's the word I was looking for.
Explored very much in Star Wars. Redemption all the time, but no atonement. And I would like to see what that looks like. We could get that with Reva. But
yes,
I mean, Ben Solo would have been kind of the ultimate chance to try that because he was another Darth Vader. And they both just died, and it would have been interesting to have Ben Solo go back and figure out what atonement looks like, but maybe someday.
Yeah.
Could be with Crosshair.
I like what Bryson Reed in the chat brought up. I think he dies saving his brothers. Kind of cliche, but I don't think he can stay on the Empire's side. That's kind of like my thought process of if he does eventually get redeemed, he'll do it kind of going out
the same way Star Wars characters always do.
Yeah, and like I said that while you were gone, I was like, that's like the last thing I want to happen, but I could see that happening because it happens all the time.
Yeah. But I like Chazotron suggesting that Crosshair, like Cody just said in this episode, Crosshair might be redeemed, survive, and have to live with the choices he made, the bad ones too. Like that,
Mhm.
you know, that could be some good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right, my turn.
Okay.
You have to go big now.
I hit the wrong button. You just have to remove yourself. That's it. Joel Davis has the next super chat. Thank you. I am not scrolled up the way Molly was, so I can at least read it. I'm glad to see the Separatist potential as a nuanced faction finally being tapped into, something the prequels and the Clone Wars failed to make. I agree that it was really, really nice to see the clones, there we go, being on the wrong side of the fight for once. We talked about this with Mace, but the fact that, you know, a mother and her child, they were scared of the clones, and Cody's like, we're here to help. And like, no, you're literally invading their home. They weren't a part of the Republic. They're not a part of the Empire, and now you're just here. So I thought that it was great that outside of that Clone Wars episode, Heroes on Both Sides, we didn't really get to explore the Separatists and their goals and what they wanted. And I'm glad that they did bring up Amina Bonteri, who was in that episode, and the fact that they tried to make peace. There were Separatists. Certainly, there were Separatists who were evil, as we saw through the prequels and the Clone Wars. But there were also Separatists who had legitimate concerns that they wanted dealt with. And Tawny Ames is exactly that kind of person. So that was one of the great things about this episode, I think. I agree. Justin Carter, thank you for the next super chat. Broke my heart when Cody said we're here to help, because he's probably said it hundreds of times and absolutely meant it. He is so used to being the hero. 100%. Yes. Like, in his mind, he is there to help. He's like, battle droids, bad. I must fight the clankers. It's what he's been doing for 3 years. It's what he was trained to do for 10 years before that. Like, that it makes complete sense that that would be how he feels, and to not get the normal response had to have been tough for him. But you know, that kind of makes me think of the first 2 episodes. So really all 3 of these episodes in a row are working very well together. But Tech talking to Romar, I think his name was, and learning to see that person as someone that's not just a separatist, but is also a Serenian that wants to preserve their own culture. Like that's so good that the not even just the Empire, but the Republic as well. Any war, you wind up dehumanizing your enemy to just thinking, oh, they're separatists. But no, it's way more nuanced than that. So yeah, Justin, great statement there that builds off of Joel's statement. And Justin has the next one as well. Thank you, Justin. How Crosshair feels about the batch is probably how Anakin felt about Ahsoka for all those years. The separation was logical, but it hurt super deep. Yeah, when Ahsoka left the Jedi Order, I was about to say that he probably, you know, I'm now wondering how long the batch has been together. I assume they've
I'm
been
back.
together. Hey, how long do you think the Bad Batch was together? Do you think they were all like born at the same time, trained together? Have they been brothers their whole life, do you think? Or did it all start when the Clone Wars began?
Well, do we know for sure if they were created on purpose or by accident?
We don't know for sure. I have always kind of thought that it was purposeful mutations. They called it advantageous mutations or something like that. But it may have been an accident. I don't know.
Because
they literally could have been a bad batch.
Yeah. If they were created on purpose, I feel like they've been together since the very beginning. But I don't know, as children, I don't know that all of them would have been kept separate from everyone else. That would have been really tough to keep them separated from the rest of the clones. Or maybe, maybe they were with everyone else to a certain age, and then they started really showing their specialties. I guess Wrecker, you would have known right away.
Do you think he was like a really buff baby?
He was like the really just giant kid.
Oh my gosh, this baby is jacked.
So strong. Yeah, I think they were together since they hit like young adulthood. That's probably when their specialties started showing.
I guess I assumed that they were together from the beginning. I don't know, I just completely derailed my train of thought because I was thinking about how long the batch was together versus how long Anakin and Ahsoka were together, because Anakin and Ahsoka were together for a max of 3 years, probably close to 3 years. But yeah, I mean, Anakin, you know, I think Anakin and Crosshair probably do have a lot in common. They both have abandonment issues. Anakin keeps losing people that are close to him, and now so does Crosshair.
Yeah, I mean, Anakin was treated like a prophecy from a very, very young age, and like he wasn't treated like a little kid or a human. He was just the prophecy. So I'm sure that would be similar to how a lot of the clones felt. They were just soldiers. They were just pawns.
Especially, and not only that, but the Bad Batch are like these special clones that the regs don't really get along with, and we've seen that Anakin as a youngling and a Padawan had trouble fitting in because all of these other younglings and Padawans were like, "Oh, he's the chosen one," blah blah blah, and Mace doesn't really look too fondly on him. So yeah, there are a lot of similarities.
I did see this comment. I do remember this episode now where Omega says that she was there to see them all born in like a special room. So maybe they were together since birth.
That does sound right.
So
I meant to rewatch season 1 and I didn't do it, and now I'm paying for it.
If they were together and separated from the rest of the clones since birth, it makes it even more impressive to see them grow and change and be able to adapt and become better people, more well-rounded over time.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Good for them. Well, Joe Hansberger has the next super chat. Thank you, Joe. Is this the first time we're hearing about Palps rejecting a peace treaty in canon or legends? We've known about Padme's attempted negotiations and Bonteri's subsequent death, but this is a cool detail. I've needed to look into that because when she brought up Mina Bonteri, I was like, oh yeah, the treaty that they were talking about in the Clone Wars. And then when they were in the midst of talking about it, the Senate building, the power plant beneath the Senate building, was sabotaged and attacked. And I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I guess I thought that that's what Tawny Ames was referring to, is that we worked together, Mina Bonteri, some Republic senators like Padme, like we all put together this peace treaty and we presented it to the Republic Senate and it was turned down. So I guess in my head, I was like, that's what she's talking about, but it could have been a different one.
I think you're right. I think that's what she was referring to.
I don't remember exactly how involved Palpatine was in all of that. I mean, obviously he was in on the attack, and pretend like, oh no, these separatists can't be trusted. But I
Mhm.
can't remember if he was the one that was like, we're putting this peace treaty down.
Yeah, it probably wasn't his sole decision. So people probably don't hold him accountable for that. But yeah,
I
I
will
don't
have
know.
to.
It's
I'll have
all
to
that stuff
rewatch the
is really
episode.
fuzzy.
Yeah. Good episode though.
Oh yeah. I was psyched with all the name drops in this episode. We got a Dooku name drop. We got Mina Bonteri. That was exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
Clone Wars fans are thriving right now.
Bakey has the next super chat. How will Rampart get his comeuppance? Will he? I vote for Crosshair killing him while technically following an order. I like that.
Yeah, like I'm just following orders, man.
I see him as the primary villain of the series because, Palpatine's not going to be in all of them. Tarkin's not going to be in all of them. It's kind of like Price, Governor Price from Star Wars Rebels. She's around. She's not constantly there, but trying to remember. She was there until the end of the season or series, and then she blew up.
I like the idea of, because we've talked about this happening for Crosshair. I like the idea of people realizing that the Empire doesn't actually value them as much as they think they do.
Yeah.
So if Rampart gets fired or somehow gets demoted or something, like that would be a great end for him, to just so he gets that last like, I thought I was doing such good work, and the Empire's like, too bad, we still don't care about you.
You just gave me an idea where, first of all, yes, the Empire doesn't care about anyone except for the Emperor. Like, he's the only one that matters. I was trying to think of a way to put Rampart in Crosshair's position, and I don't think the Empire would just fire someone, but what if they made them a stormtrooper? Like, if Rampart became cannon fodder, and he is now in Crosshair's shoes of like someone who Rampart looks down on, like, I don't value you, I'm just going to send you in to do X, Y, or Z and die. But then the Empire puts Rampart literally in the armor. I kind of like that.
Like maybe he talks enough big talk about what soldiers should do. Someone's like, all right, why don't you show us? Put some armor on. Get out there on the front lines.
Well, I assume he would. The Bad Batch would be discovered, and they'll be like, "Oh, you lied to us, and now we'll make you a stormtrooper." I don't know. Something will go wrong for him, and they'll shove him in some white armor. I feel like that would be his worst nightmare.
Yeah. Assign him a TK number so no one says his name anymore.
Yep.
The ultimate demotion. Ice has the next super chat. I was actually surprised that Cody used names for his clones and even for himself. It was a really small but touching detail. Speaking of names, I loved the inclusion of the clone names in this episode because we've lost so many of them.
And that was always a distinction made between the people who do care about the clones and the people who don't in the Clone Wars, where you get Pong Krell, that butt munch comes in and is calling everyone by their CT numbers instead of just Rex or Fives or whoever. Like, you immediately realize that person doesn't care, but Cody still does. Like, all of the clones, I think, at this point, even Crosshair cares about the clones to a degree where he's like, where's Cody? Rampart's like, who? CC2224. And you're like, oh, like even Crosshair has that in him.
Yeah. And like he's still functioning like he was before. He's just so loyal to whoever's giving him orders, which is the really sad part. But he kind of slips back into a little bit of his old self in this episode, being around Cody and fighting the droids. So yeah, it's at the end when he asks about Cody and Rampart's like, who?
Who?
It's so it's so bad.
Jane Dalton, thank you so much for the next super chat. If there's a clone revolt, could Cody die? And could that be the reason Rex and some of the other clones leave the fight? Also, do you think that Cody ever meets Ahsoka after Order 66?
This is making me feel all the feels.
That would be an interesting meeting. Especially, like, really any clone outside of Rex meeting with Ahsoka would be interesting. Just to see what's her relationship with all of them like now.
Yeah.
Because she did get shot at by a lot of them.
Yeah. And like, yeah, how do you repair that relationship? How does she rebuild the trust with the clones again? That's like,
yeah.
I was going to say that's a whole other show, and it will be coming soon to Disney Plus.
I think that she left the Clone Wars in a pretty good headspace, all things considered. Like, she never wanted to kill the clones.
Yeah.
She even had to talk Rex back of like, no, they're not in control of themselves. It's not them. We can't just kill them indiscriminately. So, and then she took the time to give them all graves. So I would hope that she might be like on her guard if Cody popped up out of the blue, but I think she'd be willing to work with them.
And like, I don't think that if Cody died, that would be reason enough for Rex and the other clones to just up and leave the fight. It would be tragic, but
yeah,
it would have to be more than that. I mean,
I agree.
We know the clones are not going to win said supposed clone rebellion if that were to happen. So
yeah, I mean, like, I think that when Rex left on Braca, he was like, there are other clones that need our help, and that's what I'm going to go do. So I think he's going to try to help as many clones as he can, but ultimately all of his hard work is going to be for 3 clones, him, Gregor, and Wolf. And that'll be it. So, I mean, I think there are going to be more clones out there that survived, but I think Rex is probably going to feel like, what am I even doing this for? So I don't think one death is going to send him to that ATTE, or else like Gregor dies in Star Wars Rebels and Rex continues fighting at least through the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, because he's devoted the rest of his life at that point to the rebellion. So,
but I'm just saying, I don't think one death will shut him off, but a lot of clone deaths might.
Talk about needing therapy. Like, I guess there comes a point where no therapist is equipped to handle this kind of trauma. But
so
they could certainly try.
Tell me about your family. Well, I have 2 million brothers. They're all identical to me. Most of them are dead.
Imagine if Jango Fett survived and he was like all of their dads.
I don't think he'd be a great father.
No, he wouldn't.
He couldn't
but, like,
handle Boba Fett.
But like then they would at least have someone to point at and be like, him, that's the reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joel Davis says the next super chat. Thank you, Joel. If Barriss ever shows up in this series, I don't want her to be an Inquisitor. Instead, I want her to be part of Saw Gerrera's partisan group. I don't know how she'd wind up there, but I don't know what she is up to at this point.
I don't either. And I don't think Saw would want any part of her in his partisan group if he knew anything about her and her past. And like I feel like they would really butt heads.
She's an interesting character to bring back at this point. I remember when the second sister was introduced for Fallen Order, and everyone was like, "Is that Barriss?" And I was one of those people because I thought that was perfect. It's like, yeah, just make her an Inquisitor. That seemed natural, but they've not talked about her for so long that I just don't know what they're going to do with her. I don't know about joining the partisans, though. I mean, okay, I can see what Joel's getting at, though, that she wasn't wrong about the Jedi or the Republic, but she was just, way overly militant about it. So,
which I mean, that might resonate with Saw.
Right. So I think you're right that he might be iffy if he knew her full story, but if he didn't, just some Mary Allen that wants to join up. I get what you're saying.
I wonder what kind of like process that looks like to join
interview
Saw's
process.
Partisan. That has to be like pretty heavy.
And where were you employed before?
I feel like everyone has to take a visit to Borgullet at least.
Do you have any references?
Ice has the next super chat. I still think the idea that Crosshair lied to Rampart is wishful thinking. There are other possibilities that are more likely. It feels like the big question of this mid-season to be answered later. Whether or not Crosshair lied to Rampart about the Bad Batch being dead.
I don't know. If okay, we kind of debated this for the first two episodes, but now that we know for sure that Crosshair is back with the Empire, someone would have asked him how he escaped, what happened. Did you see the Bad Batch? What's going on? I think he had to have lied. If the Empire thinks that they are dead, then Crosshair is keeping up that lie. That I think.
Yeah. Or at least he's probably telling himself like, oh, it's not a lie. It's just I'm withholding the full truth.
Or, okay, maybe he told Rampart and Rampart was like, we're going to tell everyone that they're dead.
Because he does like falsifying reports.
Yeah. Okay, so, I could see that.
Could be a what am I trying to say? Like a team effort between the two of them.
Yeah. I guess I could see that, but also Rampart's surprise seemed genuine in last week's episode. So, I don't know. I think that Crosshair probably lied, but there are other options. I'm not married to the idea.
Yeah.
Garth McMurray has the next super chat. I think the clones story is a good statement about how our government writes off veterans and concentrates on new troops and weapons. Just ask anyone like Mara Kanapik how the VA treats veterans. Oh, we have lots of stories about the VA.
Yeah. The VA has so many problems that at this point in time, I don't even know if they could fix them, know how to fix them, care to fix them. It's rough, but yeah.
But Garth, I think you're 100% correct. I think that Star Wars has always been political, despite what some people say, and it's always informed by what's going on in the current day.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this isn't just a current day problem; it's a long-standing problem.
And it's
But
not just a
I
good
think you are
story.
correct.
It's not just a good story for people to relate to that are like with the government or the military, because the more I think about this line that I drew the picture of, it's okay, or we're here to help. Like, that's something that people in your life will tell you like for years and years, like all along the way. Your parents will say that. Your church leaders will say that. Your teachers will say that. And like, those are people that you look up to and that you trust. But you have to dig deeper and figure out like, okay, but are they actually trying to help you? Are they doing this for the best reasons? And
yeah. What are their motivations?
yeah. And that will continue to happen throughout everyone's lives. So like this the messages in this episode get super deep. And I could go on and on. But we have to eat dinner at some point.
Well, then we'll go over to Ice with their next super chat. Thank you, Ice. Watching this now, I am glad Cody wasn't in the Kenobi series. As cool as it would have been having him in the show when he's been more prominent in animation anyway, just makes so much more sense. I mean, you're right that he's more prominent in animation, but he's also probably the most famous. I feel like Rex is probably the most famous clone still, but
yeah.
Cody is maybe the most well known to just like the casual. Oh yeah, I saw Revenge of the Sith, and that one clone had a name. Like, I wouldn't discount Cody's importance, and having him appear in Kenobi probably makes more sense than any other clone, if that had happened.
Yeah, I mean, just because he had such a close relationship with Obi-Wan, that would have made it feel right. Like it just it made sense. But they just didn't have time to cover something like that.
Yeah, I'm okay that they didn't do it. I think
I
it
am
would have been a
too.
fun idea. Some of the other ideas they threw around, Stuart Beatty talked about like them like dragging stormtroopers to a Sarlacc pit and throwing them in, and then meeting up with a bunch of other, like another truck drives up and they're also throwing stormtroopers into the Sarlacc pit, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, that's a funny idea, but the Kenobi series wasn't that funny. It had some comedic moments, but like it was really digging into his depression and stuff. So I don't know if tonally it would have worked.
Yeah, I agree. Joel Davis has the next super chat. Thank you, Joel, for another one. When I think it comes to atonement, it depends on what the story is. Is it the fairy tale logic saga stories or the realistic Andor type story? Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Darth Vader
it depends on
in
like,
Andor.
It depends on what the story can use and what makes sense for the overall message.
Agreed. It's like there are characters in Andor that have done not nearly as bad stuff as Darth Vader that I'm like, there's no way they're getting redemption for that. but Darth Vader, in the fairy tale mythological sense, it's like, oh yeah, anyone can be a good person. Like, you can turn your life around. It depends on the tone. And Star Wars is so big that it has multiple tones and genres within it. But yeah, you're right. I agree.
Good point.
Garth Garth McMurray has the next super chat. Thanks, Garth. We need a Bad Batch Babies flashback episode now.
Oh my god, can you imagine if
Bad
it was
Batch
done
Babies.
in the style of Rugrats?
Oh, I was thinking Muppet Babies. Interesting to see where our minds went.
Mm.
But
think
I like
Rugrats makes
Rugrats
more
too.
sense.
I'm trying to think of the Rugrats characters. Which one's, I guess Hunter is Tommy. There's the twins. This doesn't work as well as the Ninja Turtles, where you can very clearly tell who's who.
Yeah. But they're definitely these character types in both shows. But
I think Tech would be Chucky.
I mean, I feel like Chucky is a mix between Tech and
I think
now I have to really use my brain. I wanted to say Tech and Wrecker, but I don't know that makes sense.
I think Crosshair would be Angelica. She's the mean one.
She is the mean one. Does anyone in chat ever even remember Rugrats? I feel like that is an our generation thing. But I remember watching Rugrats to the point where I was like, in my own head, like, am I too old to watch this? And I'm like, no, it's still good. It still works.
I watched Nickelodeon for a good long while.
Or late 90s Nickelodeon was just peak television, and no one can say otherwise. Templin Institute says, all I remember is Reptar. I wonder why.
Hey, Mark. We'll go on to Ice with another super chat. Thank you so much, Ice. Regarding the treaty references, Dooku messaged the Republic shutting down the treaty after he attacked. Okay, right. After he attacked Coruscant, but I can see him telling the Separatists Palpatine refused because of propaganda. Yeah, I mean, either way, Dooku and Sidious working together, like, you know what? Huh. I wonder if Dooku sent a message to the Republic and Palpatine sent a message to the Separatists.
I can see that.
So that the Republic would be like, oh, see that? Dooku doesn't want peace. And the Separatists can be like, oh, look at that. Palpatine doesn't want peace.
Just to create more chaos.
Yeah, Ice. No, I think that's a really good thought.
That totally happened.
And maybe that's
headcanon.
That's why they had to kill Mina Bonteri, because she and Padme were friends, so they would have figured out the lie.
It all works.
Yeah. Ice.
Love it.
That's smart. I like that.
Love it.
Audrey Beach, thank you for the next super chat. I loved how deep this episode got in a sad and almost tragic way. I wonder if Rampart's machinations and mind tricks will push Crosshair further away. I want to point out that when we were watching this episode right before we started the stream, we were recording our commentary for Patreon, and Molly called this episode a treat, which it is. It's a great, great episode, but it's not the word I would use to describe it.
It was a treat for the deep Star Wars nerds that are really getting to all these themes and the messages. The writing behind this episode was a treat. That's what it is.
It is a treat. But I was also like, I'm about to be bummed out again at the end of this.
It was a huge bummer, but so was a lot of Andor, and it was a treat too. So
true. Hey, I can't argue with that. Even the sad stuff can be a treat.
I said it was a treat because I was just excited to talk about it again.
Yeah.
it's a treat for us to be able to talk about this for a living.
I wonder if Rampart's machinations and mind tricks will push Crosshair further away. I don't know. I don't think it's going to help anything, but I feel like Crosshair just doesn't care. He's just in it.
Crosshair's just slowly putting all of these little moments between him and Rampart in a little folder in his mind, and he's like, I'm ready to read you at some point, and like, you're gonna get what you deserve at some point. I got all the receipts up here.
I can see that. I don't think Rampart's gonna push Crosshair away from the Empire, though.
No, it would take more than that at this point.
If anything, I think it could push Crosshair to act and maybe remove Rampart.
It's like, oh, you want to falsify reports? I'm going to falsify and say that you accidentally got killed in action. Oops.
Oopsie daisy.
Oopsie daisy.
The one time Crosshair missed.
Yeah. That would stick out so bad. You're like, wait, Crosshair?
You accidentally shot someone. Isn't that your whole thing?
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Templin. We can't bring up stickers on here, but I think it said try again.
It's it does say try again. Thanks, Mark. At first I was excited because the little game controller thing is cute, but now I don't know what to think.
It somehow feels like a dig at what we do.
I'm sure it is.
But much appreciated.
Shayless Darkly has the next super chat. Thank you. A cool cameo.
Emoji. Sorry.
the big eyes and coffee.
Yeah.
That was me this morning. A cool cameo from the long forgotten ARC Trooper. A cool cameo of the long forgotten ARC Trooper Alpha from the Legends comics would be fun. Yeah, sure. I think Alpha was an ARC Trooper, obviously, first of all, but I think they also helped train clone troopers. I am so out of date on my Legends Republic comics at this point, but
yeah, I unfortunately I don't know this character very well. Anytime I hear Alpha, I automatically think of Dollhouse, which
and Echo.
Yeah, and Echo. Great show, by the way.
Okay, thanks.
Only 2 seasons, but definitely worth a watch.
Okay, but people pointing out that Rex was kind of based off of Alpha.
Yeah,
saying that bringing him back would still be fun. Maybe that's the fight between Rex and Alpha that we get. That I kept saying it should be Rex and Cody, but maybe Rex and Alpha can fight it out for the true Alpha.
The true Alpha. That sounds like a YouTube show. Darth Nicholas has the next super chat, a very generous super chat. Thank you so much. This was one of my favorite Bad Batch episodes yet. Like so many others have said, I really enjoyed the refreshing take on Cody, especially compared to his Imperial drill sergeant counterpart from Legends via FU2 databank.
Force Unleashed 2.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what that is. I didn't play that. But
yeah, basically Cody becomes a really curmudgeon-y stormtrooper trainer. Boo. And he's like, stormtroopers aren't nearly as good as clone troopers. He is correct. But he basically craps on his trainees all the time and makes morale really low.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
What a delight.
So this is a happier version of Cody.
Yes, definitely.
Joel Davis has the next super chat. Thank you for another one, Joel. To add to atonement, if Ben Solo didn't have a trial or jail time but lived, then it needs to be fairy tale logic. If it's Andor logic, then I mean, no, I absolutely think Ben Solo needed immediate imprisonment. Some sort of, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to see what Star Wars creators think atonement looks like in the fairy tale logic.
Yeah,
And
I think they just won't ever show us that because it's too hard to explain.
it's tough. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but that's kind of why I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just like, hey, they made the right choice and they're dead.
And everyone's forgiven.
They could figure it out with Zuko.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Zuko wasn't as bad, but
when you strip it down to the basics, like, it's a fantasy show. We can hand wave basically everything away to make it make sense, and the writers can do whatever they want. So it's hard to say whether or not anyone deserves an explanation for atonement or not, because that starts to get really complicated.
well, it's not like you said, Ben can't show up to the resistance party and he's like
And be
hugging
welcome.
Poe and Finn and Rey, and they're all
Yes.
like, "Oh, you're cool now." Like, come on.
Everyone
in.
else is like,
No.
wait,
No.
I thought he was. Yeah.
But something. I don't know. I just want to see something different.
Yeah, same.
That's it.
Darth Nicholas
you go
with
ahead.
the next super chat here. Do you think this episode is the last we will see of Cody and Bad Batch Season 2? If Cody and Rex do cross paths, how do you predict their interaction will go? Well, I said earlier that I hope this is not the last we see of Cody in Season 2, just because they brought him in so early in the 3rd episode. So, like, I'm hoping that means that they'll bring him back later. If they cross paths, I think it's going to be intense at first, but hopefully, like, Rex is actively looking for clones to help. So that tells me that they could work it out pretty quickly.
I think that it would be a good interaction. Like you say, Rex is actively trying to help clones. I think he would love to help Cody. And I agree. I don't think this will be the last of Cody in Season 2. I hope it's not. And we've got 2 here from Ice. Thank you for 2 more, Ice. The governor's statement, Dooku was right, was so potent but misguided because let's not forget Dooku made bad choices in the end and was working towards the Empire the entire time. I think that the statement, we kind of talked about this, Molly and I, when we were watching the episode earlier. I think that statement is coming from despite his faults, he was right in the end. We saw that Romar, the Serenian, in the last 2 episodes, didn't really have the highest opinion of Dooku. So I would not be surprised if the rest of the Separatist alliance also weren't crazy about Dooku. They're like, hey, we elected him leader and he was good for a while, but he really fumbled the ball and was kind of evil at points. However, he was right, and the Republic was going to give way to something worse. So that's how I interpreted that line. Is that Tawny did agree that Dooku made bad choices, but also had some good points.
Yeah. Okay. What were the first 2 episodes of Tales of the Jedi? Were those...
The first one was Baby Ahsoka, and then
That
it
one
was Dooku and Qui-Gon.
Okay. Those were written by the same person who co-wrote this episode and many others. Amanda Rose Munoz. I'm not sure how to say her last name, but I remember hearing Force Center podcast talk about her, and Ken mentioned that he wants her to just, like, people joke about Filoni taking over Star Wars, and he joked about like she should take over Star Wars. So I loved the synergy for this episode and the Dooku name drop being in there, because I was like, oh, this all makes sense now.
So far, the Bad Batch is working so well with Andor and with Tales of the Jedi. It's feeding off of both in great ways.
Mm-hmm. So good.
Isis next super chat says the Separatist citizens only saw what Dooku wanted them to see. I don't know that that's true anymore. I would have said that maybe more than a week ago, but after last week, I don't know. Their perception of him and their movement was heavily skewed. Even if they had valid issues with the Republic, that line stood out to me. And there's one more that continues that thought. That said, I do like this connectivity with Tales of the Jedi, which explored the beginnings of Dooku's ideals, and now Bad Batch is kind of exploring the aftermath, even though Dooku himself is no longer around. Yeah, like we're talking about the synergy between all of these properties. I think that Dooku tried to only let people see certain things, but after Romar and his talk with Echo, I'm like, people knew.
Yeah. I love getting to see this time period in Star Wars where we're having to see the repercussions of what was happening during the prequels. And specifically, it's really interesting to see the separatist side of things. And like, obviously, Sereno is destroyed and that sucks. But like, that was Dooku's home planet. But now we're seeing kind of more the outskirts of separatists things and like how they're affected by all of this. And it's hard to say if they, like I said before, if they only saw what Dooku wanted them to see, because eventually I think they realized what was going on.
Yeah. That's the vibe I got from Tawny, is that she wasn't fully on board with Dooku, but was willing to admit that, like, he was right about the Empire.
Because I feel like Dooku was getting sloppy with stealing from everyone.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what Romar said.
Yeah.
Dooku, you sloppy bitch. Couldn't not.
Star Wars Explained After Dark.
It's been 2.5 hours and 1.5 beers.
Joel Davis, that's the next super chat. I think fairy tale logic atonement requires acknowledgement and reparation of one's crimes, but not necessarily a full trial and jail time and solitary. Yeah, I mean, that's you put fairy tale logic with the word atonement, and it gets very fuzzy.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, when I say what does atonement look like in the fairy tale logic, I basically mean what does reparation look like? Where, yeah, I don't necessarily think. And then they locked Ben Solo up forever. Like, I want to see someone trying to fix their wrongs. And
yeah, and what that's going to look like. What are they going to do?
Exactly.
Is that even an option? Because, not to keep bringing him up, but it's just at the top of my mind right now. Ben Solo, had he survived all of that, I feel like he would have just gone in hiding. Like, there's no good way to bring him back into the limelight and be like, look, here he is. He's good now. We promise. And it just being Rey saying that, like, that's not going to happen. He's just going to go in hiding for a while and maybe eventually slowly like come back into civilization. I don't know.
Again, I don't know what it looks like. I'm not going to pretend I have the answers and I could write a satisfying ending for a character like Ben Solo. I just want someone to try.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, they couldn't, so they didn't. No one was up to the challenge.
I think there's a chance for Crosshair to do that. I think Reva has a real chance for that. Honestly, I think Reva is set up the best for it because she was an Inquisitor, she was a Jedi hunter, she was a child that did not get the path. She didn't get that safety, but just because she didn't doesn't mean she can't provide it for someone else now. So if she goes to work with the path, I think that is a good way to do that.
And she well, I don't want to say she saved Luke, but like she was going to kill Luke, but then she decided not to.
She spared Luke, yeah.
She spared Luke, which turned out to be a great choice because Luke went on to do great things.
Good job, Reva. Do you think she's still alive by the time of Return of the Jedi and she hears about that? She's like, whoo, that could have gone way different.
I'm going to write in my diary about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Reva. Remember that time 13 years ago? Okay, right. We have one more super chat here from Gorlax. Thank you, Gorlax. Do you think Arc 77 or Fordo from the 2003 animated series will show up? The clone who held off 10 droids during the Battle of Coruscant. Fordo, I know. Fordo's from the Tartakovsky series.
But I still haven't seen it.
Maybe, like, I'm never going to say never. I don't know if if they just did like a big clone uprising revolt something, and they could just name drop a ton of clones. Why not? Rex could be like, Fordo, good to see you, and that would be fun.
Yeah, I feel like that's totally plausible. I feel like we should do a Patreon watch reaction to this 2003 animated series because I still haven't seen it, and I need to go through that one, especially after watching something like The Bad Batch.
It's fun, and pretty sure there's a Gendai in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so you need to get some Dirge action, figure out what he's all about.
Definitely. Jamie Roken, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't see a sticker or a message here, but if you wanted to say something, just put it in chat and I'll
keep an eye
out. And then Darth Nicholas here with our last super chat. One could simply retitle this episode Heroes on Both Side Part 2 as a sequel to the Clone Wars episode of the same name, since Tawny, Ames, and Cody symbolized the Separatist and Imperial voices for peace, respectively. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That it's another great companion piece that builds off of that episode very well. And like many people have said, it shows the Separatists as the good guys. Like, they are the ones being invaded. And the Empire has now swapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I feel like that is a great way to end the stream.
Great, because I'm hungry. And we need to finish Willow.
Oh my god, the Willow finale! I forgot.
I know you're real excited about it. I've seen people tweeting about it all day, and I want to go watch it.
We've talked for 2 hours and 38 minutes about Star Wars, so I'm going to take this moment to say, everyone, go watch Willow. It's so good. That's it. Just on my recommendation alone, go check it out. If you haven't seen the Willow movie first, maybe give that a watch, but it's not necessary to see the show and enjoy it. Anyways, that's it.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up the stream, and I was looking for last week we rated the Bombad cast. Rated. I put a link in the chat to the Bombad cast. This week our friends at Slam Sector are streaming 40K, so I'm just gonna put a link in there. If people want to go, if you want to go in,
if you guys want to go check out some amazing 40K Warhammer content, I mean, okay, I don't know anything about Warhammer, but their setup is amazing.
Oh yeah, they have a great setup, and it's become a bit of a thing where I don't know anything about Warhammer, but they're constantly trying to get me to play it. Anyway, if you go in to their chat and just start spamming praise Nurgle, it'll make their day. So I'm just gonna say that.
Praise Nurgle.
Praise Nurgle.
From Star Wars Explained.
Yeah, that would make them very happy. But
go check them out. Wrap up. Go say hi to our buds. They're working real hard over there. And thank you to everyone so much. Oh, I don't know how to spell Nurgle. There you go.
This is dumb. This is the dumbest way we've ever ended a stream.
Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in and listened live. Thank you so much to everyone sending in super chats. You guys are rock stars. You keep us going. And we love talking about Star Wars with you all. So that's going to do it for us for today. We'll be live again tomorrow building Lego. So we can talk more about Bad Batch tomorrow or Willow.
And I already see Chazatron and Bakey saying praise Nurgle in the Slam Sector chat.
Yay!
So thank you both. But we will wrap this up. Everyone have a great night and we'll see you tomorrow.